When I told everybody I'm gonna do this, YouTube was 4 months old when I started my show. So like, it wasn't like people, like what you're doing now, people are like, oh, podcasts can hit.
Right.
Like it's known. When I was like, I'm doing this, people thought I lost my mind. Like it can't be overstated.
Yeah.
Like my best friend Brandon and my dad, and my cousin Bobby, the core four of us who were running the liquor store at the time, I was the guy. I was buying the wine, I was selling the wine, I was marketing, I was on the floor, and now I'm taking all this time to record in front of a camera and put it on the internet. That would be like me telling you right now, listen, the three of us have to go to Mars, set up a lemonade stand, and it's gonna work. It was that far-fetched to them. And so, yeah, but for me, my whole life, this may really resonate with you and a lot of the audience. I'm almost like reverse Allen Iverson. Like, I like the practice. I like the crap that no one sees.
It's a great reference.
It's a really important part to me. I enjoy when it's small. Like, I'm doing Twitch right now. Live streaming, are you doing it right now actually, Dustin? A little something, in and out. But like, in my office, I'm sitting in my office doing 10 hours of meetings and Twitch is running in the background, 90% on mute.
Yeah.
And people are watching it, but not a lot. Like, why would you watch that? It's like almost ASMR for entrepreneurs. I unmute a bunch, I do questions, I give away stuff, we hang out. But I watch it, I'm like, okay, hundreds of people are watching now, but I already know in my brain, tens of thousands of people are gonna watch me go about my business day in 6 years. And like, that gets me off more than anything. I love the 100 views, not the millions of views I have on social.
Right.
I'm almost like, it's almost like why I think I love the Jets so much. The chase to finally get it is more interesting to me than getting it. When the Yankees won the World Series, I stopped watching the Yankees.
Yeah.
But like the climb, the behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's multiple layers to everything you just said, because we can go into the Jets thing where it's like, when you finally get to the result, your process has been all the way a part of like, is the fulfillment gonna be there, or are you gonna look back and be like, damn, the process was truly the best part?
I already know the process is the best part.
But you haven't bought it yet.
I know,
but sitting there,
I genuinely
with a green suit on,
yeah,
signing the piece of paper,
yeah,
and you're gonna be like, that process was tight. You're gonna be like,
I believe that is at 48. I believe that I'm very confident telling you that I already know. Like, to the point where like I'm gonna say this may sound weird to a lot of people. I'm curious if I get some DMs or emails about this from people that have experienced this. I'm actually so extreme on process over the thing that I sometimes almost get like this weird, not depression, but like, I don't know, I'm gonna try to articulate it because it's what I do, but like, I'm almost weirdly scared of how not great that moment might be. Almost a letdown, like, I don't know, I'm so into the chase that getting it is like, all right. Like it's actually, I think it's a little fucked up and I'm working on this. I'm trying to be better at smelling the roses and enjoying. My brother, who's 11 years younger than me, has been very wise on this with me my whole life. Like, we would just do these things. When he was 22, we started the company, and like a lot of great things have happened over the last 14 years. And like, he's like, bro, like good things would happen. We sold a piece of our company to Stephen Ross, who owns the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
That was like a meaningful event at the time.
University of Michigan guy.
I mean, that's right. Big event, like changed the course. Mainly I was very enthralled to do it because I knew it for AJ would be money that really changed his life at that point, being in his young 20s. Like, it was a real catalyst. Like, it hits the bank account. It looks weird when you've got those kind of dollars in your account and you've had it.
Yeah, looks like a phone number with a name.
And I was like, all right, like I don't know, like I didn't even I don't know, like it's very consistent in my life. I'm obsessed with the chase, and I think a lot of people listening can resonate. Other people enjoy the winning it over and over, and it is about the trophies and the success. I like the process, and by the way, I'd like to be a little bit better about smelling the roses and enjoying these big moments. But I just like the game. I like the practice. I like the grind.
When you say you work on it, how do you work on it?
Meaning, how am I working on trying to enjoy the roses? By talking to myself about it. I think we all do that. Like, I think everyone has an inner dialogue. We all talk to ourselves about shit. Every one of us right now, us in front of the camera, the crew behind the camera, and definitely everybody who's watching, we know some shit right now that we wish we were doing better, or something that's bothering us. And you know this, we all talk ourselves into a tipping point where we do something about it. I try to get better and better at fixing it or making it better happen faster than dragging it out. That's what I'm working on. Things are contextual. So I think a thing that people beat people up about, this is why cancel culture is so flawed. People trying to rewind shit from 29 years ago and yell at people for what is a social norm now, shit changes. So when I was making videos in 2008 and being like, yo, you gotta go hard at 9 p.m. to midnight, at that point, everyone was out of a job. The economy collapsed. And the internet was exploding. I was right. When someone like brings it up now, 15 years later, and be like, oh, people were burning out. I'm like, people didn't even know what the fuck burning out was then. People weren't worried about burnout. People were worried about fucking paying their bills. So I think a lot of what I look back at, what works for me, that I highly talk to a lot of content creators, influencers about is like, never say something you don't believe. The amount of people that say shit that they don't believe in, only with the hope of going viral, is a fucking disaster. No million views is worth looking back at it and being like, you're an idiot. So the reason I don't have a lot of answers to your question is because everything that's ever come out of my mouth, I mean. So I feel good there.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is to look back at context. I think the things that I think about is, I think the middle, purple, is the game. I think America's gotten way too red and way too blue. And purple is the magic. So when I look at things back, sometimes I didn't create a hedge or a context point to my overall thought. So I'll give you a great one that's happening now. I'll break it fully down since we have a minute. As you two may know, and as some of the people who are watching who have seen my content, I believe in volume of content. I believe it's crazy for you to do this show with me and not put out 150 clips from the show. But when I say 150, people take it, and I don't do a good enough job to say not 150 on Instagram, 150. For example, I think 12 YouTube Shorts posts from this are important because if you title it properly, YouTube's the second biggest search engine, and somebody might watch a clip from this in 3 years and discover you guys. Because YouTube works differently than TikTok. Then there's TikTok, then there's Facebook. Do you guys post clips on Facebook?
Yeah.
More. Because it's a supply and demand issue right now. I'm pretty sure you don't post on Pinterest. It's probably unlikely that you post on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I would argue, is your biggest opportunity for your audience and how you roll. So when I think but I'll say in a clip, I'll look back and be like, post 40 times a day. And people take it as like in their one channel and they're like, that's stupid, or I don't get it, or I can't. Another thing that I've been thinking through, for example, because I've been speaking of volume of content for 7 years, is I take for granted that I've made good content. You're making a good show. It has the potential to have 7 or 12 or 15 pieces of content. I think of things now more, and I've always thought of it this way, but I didn't articulate it, that it is a quality quantity framework. You should post 40 times a day over 7 different platforms if you have quality. Posting for the sake of posting is not gonna do anything for anyone. So I think about those kind of things where in the speed that I talk, because I get hyper and excited, and the fact that sometimes it's limited, you only have limited time, we're trying to get to a lot of stuff. Sometimes I don't finish out all the sentences or all the context. And that sometimes out of context, I'm like, oh crap, I wish I added 2 more sentences because I know the audience took this out of context. There was, when people were making fun of me of like, I was like, imagine your family being dead. And that went super viral in TikTok. Yeah. I laugh at that because kids will roll up on me in the airport, like, imagine your family's dead. And I'm like, I realized that they didn't get the full context of what I was trying to say, which is like, if you actually did, you can imagine how grateful you'll be. But out of context and then clipped or stitched, it can seem a little silly. So it's those full thought out things that I leave on the table at times that I would look back on and be like, I wish I added 3 more sentences of context. Yeah. We need to talk about happiness, actual happiness. Like if you ask me how to answer your question, I think that we're in such a metrics-based world. How much money do you make? How many followers do you have? Everything's so mathed out in this tech world. This is why I'm advocating for the incredible, and I didn't invent it, I only followed the story once it happened, I think Instagram eliminating the like count in Australia and Canada really caught my attention because I think it's an unlock to creativity and happiness. You know,
so you're in favor of that?
I'm in massive favor of it.
Interesting, okay.
And it's really interesting. A lot of people are confused by that because I'm at the top of the sphere of it, and I'm like, that doesn't change my opinion of what brings value to people. I don't feel like it's detrimental to me. I feel like I think it actually fulfills my thesis, which is be creative, do what you want, be happy. So, when I think about generational wealth or things of that nature, like the amount of trust fund babies and third generation wealthy kids that I know that are the most miserable people on earth is enormous. I actually think, I remember judging Bill Gates and Warren Buffett for giving away all their money because I came from nothing. And now I understand it way more. I actually think the great curse that most parents give is too much money to their kids. Perspective, I think both my grandmothers always would talk about health. My father lost his dad at 15, my mother lost her mom at 5, and I think that affected me quite a bit. I think I feared losing my parents quite a bit. I think a lot of my strengths and shortcomings actually are predicated on that. And I feel as though I to this day speak quite a bit actually now out loud about the gratitude I have if everybody I love when I wake up in the morning is alive, and then every business loss, every judgment casted on me by somebody important, every adversity every minute, being late by 20 minutes right now, all those tiny things that a lot of people get stressed about, I'm just incapable of. Health over everything. And so I think that shapes my perspective to gratitude and happiness, which then fuels my energy to accomplish.
I completely feel that. I mean, for myself as well, going through that adversity on the entrepreneurial journey, I recall right before Muslim Girl got its first investor, I was having this moment where I had used every last penny to my name on this venture. I could no longer afford rent. I was couch surfing, friends of a friend's places. I had this one moment with myself that I recall when I was in a dark basement with no electricity somewhere in Patterson, New Jersey.
Yep.
And I was sleeping on a dirty ass futon. And I asked myself, how much more can I take? How much longer can I last? Going through all the adversity that you faced to get here, did you ever have a moment like that?
No, I didn't. I was too good at making money. That's just, and even better at not spending it. I'm so good like that. That's a talent of mine. And so, I saved all my money. I didn't buy stuff. I built a huge baseball card collection. I sold it. I always had money because that is my talent, and so, no, I did not. However, my version of that was more mental. I got really aggressively bullied by teachers and parents in my high school years because they probably saw a kind, talented kid who was failing so miserably in the way that they scored the world, which was school, that they really put a lot of pressure on me in their words, in a way that probably came from a good place in hindsight. But it put a lot of pressure on me mentally when everybody said you're gonna be a loser, you're wasting your talent, you could be doing so much more.
It's right there.
It's right there. I mean, this is real life. I tell stories. This is why I got there. I'm showing my report card right now. I think that when people hear I was a bad student, I don't think they understand how bad. My class rank was 243 out of 254. There was only 11 people that were worse in my high school class out of 254 people. And obviously I've had disproportionately more success than probably the combination of class, let alone individuals in it. And not in happiness, because so many of them are happy, thank God, but I knew what I was and I knew what I was gonna accomplish. So listen, here's my true narrative that people are confused by. As a kid with no money, starting with lemonade, making $1 then $2, my parents never gave me money. My parents never gave me money. I never got $1 in allowance, right? My dad lent me $1,000 when I started my business to add to what I had. And then I paid it back within a week because it didn't even feel good, and I was like, fuck that. And so my parents never gave me money, and then I have money, 8,000, 10,000 bucks, and then I go into my dad's family business. And then I had my next adversity, which is from 22 to 34, I built an enormous business. I had no social life, and I owned none of the business. And at 34 years old, I leave my family business to start VaynerMedia, and I have nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because not only did I build a huge business for my dad and my mom and my family, but I also underpaid myself to reinvest in the business. So I wasn't even compensated properly for my executive prowess. Some could say, well, I've built businesses for other companies. I'm like, cool, at least you got paid $400,000 a year, $800,000 a year when you took something from 3 to 65. I didn't get even that. I was treating it as if it was mine. But I used to resent my dad a little bit for that. I'm happy to admit that. But that's because it happened in 2011, 12, 13, when I was stuck in this startup world. And I needed to remind myself that I was in a family business. And every family business of immigrants in America is the old man or the old woman owns it until they die and then they give it to the kid. So it wasn't that they were doing anything different than anybody else. It was that I was so special. And that's just the truth. Not a lot of kids go into the business, take control, and explode the fuck out of it. So, and then, by the way, and then my next adversity started. I started this business with my brother 50-50 when I had all the leverage, and then he left early, and I had to buy him out. And so I am a story at adversity when it comes to the financial part. But my brother, but my brother gave me what I wanted: control and respect and acknowledgement that I was the alpha. An influencer person brings value to their audience, which creates a relationship with them predicated on value. Whether that value is they're so attractive that you want to look at a model, or they make you laugh, or they give you a mindset shift, or they give you a tactic on TikTok. I don't get to judge why somebody becomes influential. The audience gets to judge. That's fine. That's cool. That's whatever. I think what I think I do extremely well is I counterpoint my own points. I always say that I'm a contradiction. I believe influencers really matter. I was right. I was right 8 years ago when I was yelling about that. It's happened. People have amassed followers and people want to tap into that attention, right? At the same token, if you notice, once I establish that and it becomes acceptant, all of a sudden my message starts changing to the counter move of that, which is like, hey influencers, don't get too high in your own supply. Who the fuck are you? Treat people with kindness. This could go away. Make sure you start building your audience in other platforms. I'm constantly doing that. I'm right about trends, and then I start to help the people that have benefited or aspire to it to understand the counter issue of that trend. There is always a reaction to something that happens. And many things start pure and then get tainted with success. I would argue, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and it got into humility, and it's so interesting to me. I was gifted with it, that's all I can say. My parents instilled it, it was in my natural DNA. My bravado is only matched by my humility, and every day that I'm consciously aware of my influence, my scale, my notoriety growing, I subconsciously continue to triple down to make sure my humility is outpacing my growth. One of the biggest things that I'm trying to figure out, and I'm super early, which is why I'm not talking about it, but before we worry about the judgment from the outside, most people are crippled by the judgment of themselves, through themselves, without realizing somebody else put that judgment in them. So before we even allow the framework that your actions did that, I'd like to take a step back, because the second you can take a little of that pressure off, it changes the way that you can maybe deal with it.
Yeah.
You know? Also, how old is he?
12.
I mean, it's early, and all you have to do is love and listen. You can't impose what you want him to be. You need to watch carefully and react to what he actually is. If he doesn't like change, he may not be an entrepreneur, and guess what? That's amazing. I have no interest in my children being entrepreneurs. I have interest in them loving what they do the way I love what I do. And whether that makes $4 a year or not, that's it. And by the way, I'm not gonna give them any of my money either. So if they make $4 a year, they're gonna fucking live on $4 a year. And guess what? There's a lot of fuckers in this room making $40,000 a year that are way happier than the millionaires in this fucking hall.
Mate, I work 70 to 80 hour weeks like a lot of people in here, but at the end of every day, I'm absolutely exhausted, no energy left. But I noticed there's some entrepreneurs like yourself, you guys seem to generate more energy the more you work and the older you get. How do you do it? How do you get that energy?
I fucking collapse when I walk in. Like when I walk in at 11 or 12 p.m., I'm asleep within 8 seconds.
How are you bringing all that energy all day? Where's it coming from?
I really like what I'm doing. You know how much energy I had in school? Dick. I think the more you like it, and listen, there's also like, you know, that's like me asking you how you have a great head of hair. Like at some level, some people just have DNA. Like I've always had a fuckload of energy. That's just what I was given, right? So I also think for me, specifically, the combination of natural energy that was handed to me with whatever chemical infrastructure I have, plus genuinely liking what I do, that's how.
So you say the passion and the love is where you get the energy from?
Bro, every single person that chases cash over loving the process ends up far less happy than people think. All of them. That's my answer.
I'm on it, man. Thank you.
You got it.
Hi, Gary.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Super duper.
That's good to hear.
Thank you.
My name's Marissa.
Hi, Marissa.
I'm in the IT industry.
Okay.
So my whole family and friends come to me for IT advice.
Right.
And I'm a software tester full-time.
Okay.
And I have my part-time web design business.
Okay.
Just because my family wanted me to make them websites.
Understood.
And I also have a ton of ideas,
Good.
but I don't know if I should do all of them at once or should I just focus on one idea.
What sounds more fun?
All of them?
Do that.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. I really think that a lot of people are like me and want to do all of them. And people that tell you to focus on one are people that are successful at focusing at one. You know, and I'm successful at focusing at a lot. I just think you should see your intuition through, and if you learn that I'm good at it. A lot of people suck at it. The best way to know what to do is to pick one, do it. Obviously, if you pick focusing on one, you'll never know if you're good at focusing on 5. If you pick focusing on 5 and you fuck up, you know to go focus at 1. It's how I think about employees. Hiring is guessing. Firing is knowing. So I spend very little time hiring. The answer is pretty much yes. And that's where I think I flip a lot of things in the way that people do things. That's worked for me and I see it working for others. Hey.
G'day Gary, how are you?
Real good, bro.
My name's Liam. It's funny you mentioned education before because my initiative supports young teachers.
Okay, great.
And hopefully making them not like the teachers that you might have
understand.
had. We're getting to a stage now where we're dealing with bigger, more established organizations.
Okay.
Some are linked to the government.
Makes sense.
When I've been dealing with them, the opinion has been very anti-technology, very anti-social media.
Of course.
When I talked to them, they were, static web pages with no interactivity, no Instagram, no Facebook. But we have to work with them to get bigger.
Okay.
And they're almost seeing my opinions as like a threat or something along those lines.
That's exactly what they think.
What would be your advice to help deal with an industry that's inherently negative about social media promotion?
Not be at the mercy of it like you are now. You've built a model that relies on them, right?
Yeah.
I recommend not to. Otherwise, you have to play by their rules, which means you will get frustrated and quit eventually anyway. So I would reframe the model to have leverage outside of them, not play within them. Now that's a fucking brain twist for you because you're like, fuck, that means I have to start all over. That's what I'm actually telling you to do if you're frustrated by it, or eat the shit sandwich for the rest of your life because you chose to play within their fucking old school bullshit framework.
Well, conversations are kind of just beginning, so I'll go tell them that.
I mean, you know where those conversations are going to end.
Yeah.
What innovation is inherently against education. Education is built on the foundation of memorizing information in a world where information is at your fingertips. That's a problem. We don't give a shit when it fucks up retailers and we have new internet retailers, but we're awfully romantic about education. Education's framework is broke. The internet fucked it. That's not something I or you have anything to do with. But if you choose to play within it, you choose to play within it. It's like kids that always hit me up, they're like, Gary, my parents are forcing me to go to fucking school. Like, I don't fucking want to do this. I want to start a business. I'm like, leave. All these kids talking shit, but they want mommy's money. Don't take mommy's money and fucking start a business. Eat shit for a decade and do your thing. But no, everybody wants both. You're not gonna be able to have both, bro. They're not gonna move. They'll appease you and run you around until you quit. So,
Fight 'em.
what?
Don't fight them.
You can't fight them. They have all the fucking leverage. What, are you gonna fight them with that awesome coat you're wearing? You can't fight something that has all the leverage. You're asking. Got it?
Yeah.
Whoever asks loses.
You know, I'm one of those talkers that say like, I want to make a business and all that stuff. And I've been doing a little soul searching and like, you know how every business you want to help people, and I do find like a lot of fulfillment when I like, you know, help people and like go out and do stuff for people. But at the same time, I'm kind of like perplexed right now because I'd much rather spend like an afternoon playing basketball than going to volunteer somewhere. So
that's fine.
I'm just wondering, am I like a hypocrite right now, or yeah, I'm just
no, you just like
confused.
fucking basketball.
So then, in terms of like passion, then like
you should start a basketball business. I'm being serious.
Okay.
Why do you want to have a business?
Well, as a means to an end, basically, but
You could work somewhere as a means to an end.
yeah.
You know, that's the thing that I'm trying to really have conversations around. This new notion that everybody needs to have a business is laughable. 9 out of 10, you know, small businesses fail. 9 out of 10 people never even try to do a small business. It's hard. It's a talent. Everybody thinks like now, because of the way the internet works and entrepreneurship is cool, that like, I'm gonna have a business. That's like everybody saying, I'm gonna play professional basketball. That's nice. But, you know, my intuition is you don't have to have a business.
Right. But also in terms of like, if you say your passion is helping people, but you'd much rather do something else.
You can't fucking help people 24/7 every day.
Yeah, right.
It's likely that playing basketball helps you help people. I just enjoy the process of being a giving and nice person. It like really feeds me. It's really how I identify. And so I, you know, that's what I've come to realize really triggers me. And like when do I get really upset? It's when I'm disappointed in myself, when I maybe didn't show up as strong as I could for someone or do something. Like I don't get upset when I lose in business, you know, when I lose money. Like that's not the places I get caught up on. I get caught up emotionally, you know, deeply when I try, you know, like I just think a lot about like coming through. I also think I'm a little bit over the top on it. I'm trying to get a little bit better at this. But like I have a little bit of a superhero syndrome that gets me into trouble, but I'm very focused on that. So that's kind of where I think my life's about. Do you know what I mean? I definitely don't think my life's about being a great entrepreneur making money. Or if I buy the New York Jets, a lot of people think that's my dream. It was my dream when I was in 4th grade when I came up with it, and I've said it pretty much every day or at least every week since, but it is beyond not my dream. It's my enjoyment to try to achieve. I love the journey of trying to get the Jets. It's a challenge. It's a game. It's like beating Zelda. You're wearing a Zelda shirt. Trying to get to Ganon like in 1986 and beat Zelda when it came out was every middle school's obsession in my growing up era. And that like the burning the bushes and moving the rocks was the fun part, not actually winning the game. And that's who I've become as a human.
So you would say that your character, in terms of who you see yourself to be, is what
yes,
you.
but I'm very cautious to not be delusional and paint a picture of myself that I want to paint. It's why I pay so close attention to the people that are actually interacting with me on how they feel.
Okay, because like for example, so I'm a teacher, and I really resonate with what you see about the school system and how kids, I guess they need to be, well, not need to be, but like what type of education that would benefit them the most. And so I often give advice to kids, and so I'm very, I guess, well equipped to do that. However, I feel that, I guess, due to my many insecurities, I feel that I'm fake whilst I'm doling out the advice. Like I know
because you don't. Is that because you feel like you don't live it, or do you think it's just a full framework of just actual insecurities?
I think it's both, actually.
I think. Look, let me use sports as an analogy. Some of the greatest coaches in the history of sports did not play the sport. And so, there's a lot of things that I see as very clear observations because I consume watching people that I have not lived, that I'm more than happy to talk about as a hypothesis and an opinion that I think is a good idea. You predominantly see a different version of me, so does the world. I will do that in real life more because it's a safer space. In a public life, I really do talk a lot about the stuff that I know. That's why most of the books are very marketing specific and things of that nature. But I have a lot of, passions about perspective and confidence and insecurity. But the fact that we're even at a time in the world where you can speak openly about being insecure, that was unheard of a man saying that 30 years ago. We've destigmatized a lot of things. Do I believe, like an earlier call we had, that we've gone too far and stuff? Yes. I believe in our destigmatization and acceptance. We've created many over the top, too far extremes of entitlement, and we haven't found our balance. There's a reason that this book's cover is purple. It's because the world of politics has gone too red and blue, and I love purple. There's a reason that my kid's book is literally called Meet Me in the Middle, because if you're overly being eager and ambitious is remarkable. But if you're overly eager, it's out of balance. Being patient is my most favorite thing to tell everyone. But if you become obnoxiously patient, now you're going into a word called, one of my least favorite things, which is, an extreme version is complacency, right? And so, I think that what I'm hearing from you is, first of all, self-awareness, which is massive because that's step one. I wasn't able to start getting better at candor until I saw that it was a weakness. So you're already further along than many people on earth, right? Next, I can tell you, look, that's just you beating yourself up again. My brother, let me give you some real love here. The amount of people that are willing to go on a very big platform on the internet and say to the world, my many insecurities, is further along in their journey than most people on earth. All right, so that's number one. Number two, the next thing you do, one of the things, if you listen carefully to my content, sounds like you do enough that this might resonate for you, but definitely for some of the people here, is I often hedge a lot of things with words. I'm like, if I, or sometimes I believe, or I've heard, or, so one of the things when you're telling kids advice, you could say, look, I actually was never great at this, but you should do this. And I'm even working at my age of getting better at this, instead of saying you should do this. That's how you eliminate your worry of being a hypocrite or being fake.
Yeah. Yeah, because I find that a lot of times when I am offering advice, it's from many sources, yourself included. And so I know there's validity to all of it. It's just, as you said as well, it's hard living it as well.
Of course.
Because, for one thing is, I know, I love your quote about, being realistic, and it's just, just being real negative. But because I've come from a background of just being cynical and negative all the time, and so I know I'm trying to be positive. I still quite can't get there.
Of course, because it's, that upbringing, it's so ingrained in you, either DNA or environment wise. But again, brother, you are such a fucking inspiration for me, Drew. I'm so happy right now. You don't even know what's actually happening. You are helping so many people right now and yourself. Do you understand that you're doing the only thing one can do? You're doing the only thing one can do if they were born into a cynical or negative environment or DNA structure. You're trying to get out of it instead of dwelling in it.
Okay.
It's incredibly inspirational, bro.
Thank you for that. And I guess it leads to the whole gratitude thing as well, because I feel that I should be very gracious with. I'm feeling a lot of, I think I feel it. I'm not too sure about it. Because I've been told before that trying to chase gratitude is not really the way to go about it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's virtue. It's not like I'm trying to be like a saint or anything. It's just it's just genuine enjoyment of positivity as an oxygen stream. I don't like to put labels on things. I don't like to over educate on these things, meaning sometimes we get over philosophical. I don't know, someone saying it's almost like people trying to outthink each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You see the thing going on LinkedIn? Yeah. Okay. You know what I mean, Drew? That's almost everyone out philosophicaling each other. I get it. The deepest state of virtue would not be that. I understand how that could get there, but let me say this. It is never a bad idea to try to be a good person. What version of life is that, right? That's being a fake good person to cover up insecurity or to get someone in a bad way on a surprise. That's bad. But if your intent is good, then that's as good as it fucking gets. Don't think in the terms of standing out. Think in the terms of providing value.
Providing value, yeah.
You know what I mean? Back to, you've been listening a little, we talked to Joey Bats, Vegas, your rivals there, the way we talked to that lady in the UK. Too many people are oh, we're going to stand out from all the other, soccer teams or, it's not about that. The way you accomplish the standout, the way you accomplish the happiness, it's all the same shit, which is how do you bring value to people, right? This book was originally called Jab, 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 Left Hook.
Right.
Which was a follow-up from a book that I wrote 10 years ago, which is what I was just telling you to do, which is give value, give value, give value. And then you can ask if the Utah Club puts out great videos, learning videos of how to start your soccer journey, highlight videos that people think are rad and are escapism. And then you ask for people to tune into the game on ESPN Plus or to buy tickets, you're going to convert better because you brought value.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, Eric, that are going to buy this Fundle book today because it's a thank you, consciously or subconsciously, for the value I've provided for 15 years.
Right.
And because they think they're going to get value, right?
Right. No, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. That's why I bought the book. I asked it for a Christmas present back in last Christmas, and figured out that it was barely going to be released right now. So yeah, I'm just grateful to be on here, Gary. And I kind of, like I said, I take everything to heart from what you say when it comes to, pursuing what you love, not chasing the clout, not chasing the money, chasing happiness, true joy.
Oh, it's always happiness. Look, money and clout, slang for reputation, potentially at its best form. Those are good things. Having good reputation, having money, they're not bad things. It's just not easy to sustain them if you're not in a good place.
Right.
Why do so many millionaires burn out and go into addiction or lose their money? It wasn't sustainable because they weren't in a good place with themselves. The reason I am in such a, I would call it fairly anxious-free, especially when you consider what I'm up to, very happy state, is because I fixed the well, not the sink. I'm in religion, not tactics. Here's what I mean by that. It is more fun to me to run a business and start a business than it is to go golfing or water sports at a lake or tennis or the movies. It's why so many people that work with me are my friends. My actual happiest place is in business creation and operations.
So you've really found your joy.
Yeah, this is why I was so unhappy in my youth, at least from my school day to day. I was so quickly, call it third grade, fourth grade latest, in this weird kind of like wisdom. You know, I spent a lot of time with grandparents and old people, not my grandparents, because unfortunately they died in the old country in Russia, but would always be attracted to old people, would sit with them on the bus and talk to them at the park. And I don't know if I'm an old soul or I extracted a lot of wisdom, but by fourth grade, I'm like, oh, this is not for me. That's okay. That's not like I'm a spoiled brat and I don't want to do school. It's, oh, this is really not for me. I really love this thing, business, selling baseball cards, lemonade stands. Like in the summer, it was more fun to me while my friends were like, hey, let's go do slip and slide or play baseball. I was like, yes, and I like those things. But 1 out of every 2 days in the summer, I was like, let's go wash cars. Let's do a lemonade stand. Let's start a flea market. It was just very natural for me to want to do business. And so this is why I'm always interested in doing longer form content, because I want people to hear this. I don't burn out because I'm not about the money. I'm not buying homes that I can't afford and I need them. People burn out when they're anxious or stuck. I don't need the money to buy something to impress people. I don't need the money to pay my bills. Why? Because I live far more humbly than my earnings. And I did that, by the way, Justin, not today when I make a lot more money. When I was in my early 20s building my dad's liquor store for him, I was making $40,000, $50,000 a year. But I lived in a fucking $1,400 apartment and then basically did nothing else. Like literally had no other expense. When you don't go out, when you don't buy stuff, when you don't need $800 sneakers, when you don't need to go to Coachella. So, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with all that stuff. And I want everybody to enjoy their lives, but I was so self-aware that, and so the answer to your question is, I'm doing what I love every day. Truly, not some fucking, bullshit like love what you do. You'll like, love what you do, you never work a day of your life. There is no bigger poster child for that than me. I genuinely like what I do every day more than every alternative besides the thought of like spending time with my family who's not in my business. Like I love that that's why I have a business with my dad and my brother, right? And why I even have thoughts of like, can I do something with my sister? It forces me to spend more time with them because this is my playground that I want to be in. I love going out to dinner with them after work. I love the weekends. I love vacation. I love all that. I love family time, but I don't think people burn out because they don't have enough family time. I think they burn out because they have this very poor relationship with the money they're trying to extract out of their career or business, and how they spend their money in their life and what they spend their money on. When I say go hard, I always add in, if you love it so much, it doesn't feel like you're going hard. People separate my words. I can't go, Amy, I can't go hard at anything. I was the worst student of all time. Amy, do you know that I went through 4 years of high school without doing a single piece of homework or studying? I literally went my sophomore, junior, senior year without opening a book. Zach, I did not open a book. I would bring it home. I'd have fun with my mom covering the book with the, like the paper bag and like drawing on it. I can't go hard at handiwork around my apartment. I hate it. I can't go hard on that. You can only go hard if you love it. Otherwise, you will crash and burn.
Yes, so that's exactly what I did. I crashed and burned. And now my problem is I can't seem to bounce back from that. I also have a lot of mental health issues. I take medications and stuff for my own. Everybody's got their own stuff, you know.
Yeah, I do.
And that maybe if I get the right meds, that can fix me up a little bit. But I honestly just think
No. Did you listen to the prior thing, the word yet?
No.
Did you listen to the last Q&A where I was like, you haven't, to the barbershop car wash guy or no?
I only personally.
You were getting set up. Got it. So, Aim, you just haven't gotten it right yet. And I don't even think, listen, I have no interest in speaking to people's medical conditions. I don't know those things, but I can tell you right now, even your spirit is so bright on this call. You're a winner. You just literally haven't, what you're doing is so classic. You had the supervisor thing. So there was title, there was guaranteed money coming in. You chose happiness. I applaud you for that. Can we clap it up for her? Amy, you chose happiness. And now you're trying to reset, and maybe you don't have a couple of things you had before, a title, the steady income yet, but yet. It's a foregone conclusion. Once you had it, you'll always have it. You were clearly capable.
So I'm trying to do when I told you I did the podcast back then with some friends, I was pretty good at that. And I got a lot of compliments that I did good research, that I held a good interview, stuff like that. I really like getting to know people. I like to have a story. I'm a very empathetic person as well. So I feel like I could potentially do some interviews and relate to people on different levels than they've done in other interviews.
Okay.
So I get the ball rolling with that.
Okay. You know that's hard as shit though. Having a successful podcast is hard. You need to do that for your joy, and then maybe over time it becomes something. But you need to take these incredible people skills and deploy them against a job as well.
Job, like, I don't know what job is good enough for that. Like I'd be great working at a movie theater. I'm great with that.
So go work at a movie theater.
It doesn't pay enough.
What's enough?
Pricey down here.
Now listen, I get it. I think the price, like, it all becomes a game of like, what are you trying to achieve? I mean, the question becomes very simply like, can you live within the means of something that makes you happy? $60,000 a year is enough if you live within a $60,000 a year lifestyle. It's not if you live within a $180,000 a year lifestyle, right? So you have to also know, like, what do you want money for?
Yeah, well, I would eventually like to just get it to a point where I can do something that I enjoy for work, so I can love what I'm doing every day, like you kind of talk about. So I would like to get.
So, go ahead.
If I could get to like if I could just keep this day job that I'm doing for the next couple of years, I can get through that if I have something joyous on the out.
Got it. You believe, well, but that didn't work for you last time. You had that before. You had a job as a supervisor that you didn't like, but you had this podcast that was joyous, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Why not just make your job joyous?
That's the hard part.
If you decide it's hard, why don't you just spend all your time applying to things that you theoretically think could work for you? Like, the reality is, you would like anything if the environment at the job was good. You're a people person.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people at Vayner right now that love their job, but they don't love advertising the way I do. They just love the people around them.
Okay.
I think you're looking for a good work environment potentially.
That makes me think I need to go back to the office because right now I'm working from home.
By the way, Amy,
yeah.
Most people need to go back to the office because of just the human part of it. If you're a people person, it's really nice to be back in the office.
That's true.
Not everybody's a people person, but a lot of people are.
I just feel like it takes away like that 2-hour commute. It's one hour there, 1 hour back. That's 2 hours of my day. I could be doing something more productive.
But you're sitting at home and being miserable.
Yeah.
So the fuck are we doing? You like music?
I do like music.
Well, fucking listen to music for an hour each way. It's a fucking joy.
That's pretty good advice.
Amy, people make up things in theory that they think are smart when they're not smart at all. You're putting, you like that? Oh, you meant the boom. Got it. I wasn't sure which one.
There's part of that.
It was a little bit of both. You are into doing two things at once today. Amy, people love to create a theory of like, oh, commuting 1 hour each way is a bad idea because their friend said it. That's on crack. You know, or like they hear it in society, or like they worry about the gas cost. I understand how people's brains work, but like commuting an hour each way might not be bad for you, especially if you decide the commute's awesome. I miss commuting to Wine Library, Amy. I called my mom every day. Best thing I could be doing with my time. I fucking listened to sports radio and would like yell at fucking Mike and the Mad Dog and be like, you fuckers are wrong, the Knicks aren't. Like, I put in Bone Thugs and fucking Harmony and listened to it and banged to First of the Month. I enjoyed it. Did I love being in traffic between New York and New Jersey and the fucking GW? No, but because I was good, I wasn't mad. If you're fucking mad, you're gonna be pissed about everything. You're unhappy right now. Don't tell me about the theory of annoyance when you're unhappy. And guess what? You're allowed to change your mind. Go do it. And if like in 6 months, you're driving for 40 minutes on a 1 hour commute and it's like a huge accident, you're just sitting there and you're like, this fucking blows. Then you can be like, you know what? Fuck Garyvee, he's wrong, I'm quitting. And then you can change your mind again.
All right, so don't wait and do this miserable job and then wait till the podcast works out and then I can be happy. I should just try to find something that can make me happy now.
100,000%, because that's not going to work.
Okay.
My friends, you can't read about push-ups. You have to do them. You can't read or listen to what I'm saying. You have to do it. And that's what got me over the last 3 years into this part of it. I couldn't understand 5 or 6 years ago when I was handing you the keys why you weren't driving that car. And what I ended up realizing was it was all up here. There's a stunning amount of fear in this room about putting out content. How you look, what you're gonna say, what are the comments gonna say? Just a crippling amount of inaction because of the fear of people's opinions that you don't even know. And even worse, opinions of the people you love the most. And so for me, that has become an incredibly important place for me to focus on. So for me, I just have no interest in being half pregnant. I have no interest in being stuck in the middle. There's only two things for me. The macro, which is, why are you living your life based on other people's opinions? And then the micro, what are the tactics, the individual executions that actually get you to what you want? The biggest thing that I would love for this room to start doing is to start really thinking about the notion of being great at producing written words, audio, and video per the 10 platforms so that it's contextual to the platform. I just pushed a lot of you to do LinkedIn. Looking at this room, 11 of you will do it. Of those 11, if you're listening right now, remember this. When somebody's on LinkedIn and going through the content, they're in a business mindset. When they're on Instagram, they're in an entertainment mindset. So the way you convey your message is extremely important. The adjectives you use, the analogies you use, the examples you use, it has to base on the psychology. Every one of us is in a different place when we're on different platforms. You have to pander, you have to be contextual to that. So whatever you have to say about what you're doing, make sure you're being empathetic and strategic to how they're thinking when they see it. That is why I do well on each platform. I strategize around the content in reverse engineering the psychology in the same way that I'm trying to do that as I'm on this stage right now. What, for an audience that has so much content that they've consumed from me, can I say right now? It's why I took 40 minutes and switched it, because you can hear this shit every fucking day because I'm consistent as fuck. But what I get to do right now is use the Q&A to be contextual as shit. You just have to start with, what else can I give you within the framework of my ecosystem? The reason I built the biggest wine show on the internet in the mid-2000s was I wasn't trying to sell wine, I was trying to educate people about wine. And if I happened to sell wine, I was thrilled. There's nothing, by the way, back to the last thing, there's nothing wrong with being selfish. I'm selfish, I wanna buy the New York Jets. The value though is the punchline. When you slow it down and you play over 50 years, when you give more than you take, you end up with a fuckload. And so what you can do is you can start by asking a question. You can literally go back to your seat right now, take the camera on whatever you're posting on and say, hey, I've been telling you about the frames, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys want from me? What else can I be doing for you? What questions do you have for me? And then read those questions, and that will give you the insight to how you bring value. Okay. I didn't know that I needed to talk about parent and kid dynamics. I just read all the DMs from the parents and the kids, and that led me to having an understanding that there was something there to talk about.
Okay.
Got it?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Gary, Ash Kerwin, how do you disagree with the status quo by raising your audience's heart math without seeming like a know-it-all, a heckler, or a troll?
By ending up being right.
Correct. Thank you for everything you do, mate.
And that's the punchline, right, to that answer. Like, so many of the things I say at first are pushed against, which I respect. When you're innovating, mate, and pushing against the status quo, people are gonna disagree with you. That's the nature of it. I don't think that I deserve to be right. I just know that if I am right, over time it builds reputation. I get away with a lot more today than I did 15 years ago because of being historically correct. Hey.
G'day, Gary.
G'day.
My name's Ethan. I'm 19, I'm a uni student at the moment, and I've been following you for years now. I love all the stuff you're doing with your Cloud and Dirt, your Empathy Wine, VaynerMedia, all the stuff. I love how you, like, diversification really with your portfolio. My question really was, at this point, I know I'm young and patience is key. I've got a lot of different avenues I like that appeal to different morals and things that I value.
Okay.
How do you give that 100% to everything? Or, because like, I feel like I'm giving 20% to 5 different things to add up to 100.
I'd probably, listen, there's a lot of ways to do this, right? So the way I stay focused is by not being focused. That's my DNA. I need a lot of stimuli, and my big game is if I'm throwing 30 balls in the air, if 8 fall, I don't care about your collective judgment that I had 8 things fail, and I still have 22 balls in the air. That's what works for me. I have tons of people I surround myself who are only good at having 1 ball, and they crush that ball like crazy, and that's amazing too. What I would say for you is you can play both. You can try to go 5 times 20%, see what that does. Okay. You may learn during that time that you actually love number 4 and you decide to give that 80% and the others 5.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just thinking at that point, 100, I always got the fear of like, if I go 100%, I'm gonna fuck up. And then you've answered the question before.
You know where it's an issue?
Yeah.
You're thinking.
Yeah, I overthink.
Bro, everybody overthinks. Okay. Everybody's so fucking insecure about losing that they think, which makes them never do, which keeps them away from losing. True. Reverse it and don't give a fuck about what people think about your loss, and shit gets real fun. I love fucking losing. I do, laughy guy. You're part of a generation that was protected from losing. You need to break the fuck out of it.
Okay.
By recognizing how sweet it is when you succeed on your own terms, how proud they'll be about you. Too many kids struggle with conflict with parents in the short term without realizing that parents always fall into line after you're successful. And by also having the humility that if you're wrong, to admit that you're wrong 20 years from now and adjust. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
listen, everybody at some level, whether they have good parents or bad parents, want to make their parents proud. It's a fucking inherent thing of coming out of somebody's body, right? It is. When I say don't listen to anybody and go quiet, I mean everybody, especially parents, spouses, siblings, especially. But here's the key. When you just said, Garyvee, I think you're the motherfucking man, where people get caught is they get too high on compliments and too low on insults. Nothing makes me happier than when I read my comments where one post is, Garyvee, you're just hot air, fuck you, right? And the next one's like, Gary, you're fucking Jesus, you walk on water. And I look at those two, and I'm like, this is why I'm gonna win. I can't hear either of them. Where so many of you are fucking up is you hear the cheering, but you're crippled by the booing. You're addicted to the cheering, but you don't wanna hear the booing. I respect both equally, which means I can't hear either. Either you're gonna be right, or they're gonna be right. I feel the way you delivered your sentence that you're gonna be right. I think you need to limit how much you listen to them. Whether you're finally ready to start your podcast on Spotify, whether you're gonna build your Instagram profile or meme page because you want brand dollars, whatever you're up to in this room, the reality is that if you have to put in so much work, but so much of what comes out of people's mouth or what they post is selfish, not selfless. It's what you want. You want them to buy it. You want them to like your post. You want them to follow you. The biggest reason I have the luxury of standing here today is from the wine business, to the content I made on YouTube when it first came out, to everything I've done over the last 8 to 9 years in my books, in all my free content. I've always thought, how do I bring more value to you than I get in return? It's very simple. Karma, or doing the right thing, always works. The problem is, most people are impatient. The reason most people are impatient, especially in cultures like mine, Eastern European, in cultures like here, there's too many people in here that are trying to get successful too fast because they want to prove it to their parents. And in that impatience is a very important point. My friends, the number one thing I fear, period, is that people live their lives based on other people's opinions. The number one thing that I have seen as I've gotten older that has been very obvious to me is that most of the people here today do many of the things they do because of 1 to 5 people's opinions in their lives, whether their parents, their spouse, their older sibling, their neighbor. Living your life predicated on the judgment of somebody else is the great weakness of the human being. The biggest reason, do you know how many people are here today just to get affirmation from me to go and do something? I mean it. And it's fascinating to me, and I'm empathetic. I understand, and I want to talk about it a lot, because no matter how I tell you how to leave 500 comments on Instagram posts, or what time to post your posts, or why you should start a Spotify podcast tomorrow, or how you actually list an item on Facebook Marketplace, no matter what I tell you, if you post the first day and the person that you're worried about has a bad opinion of it, it's already game over. The thing that I've become fascinated about, and the thing that I want to talk about today, is really 2 things. Literally right before I came out here with the organizers, they're like, talk about the how. And I asked them, I said, the how here or the how here? What's interesting to me now that I've been a little older and had my career, and I'll go back to it in a minute to frame it up, but as I'm segueing, what's interesting to me is every wonderful person that I'm looking at right now, for them to get what they want, happiness, forget about money for a minute, happiness, for them to get what they want, it actually is only one of 2 things, here or here. And here represents doing the work, knowing what to do. My whole career, as I got more known on the internet, I did not want to be a motivational speaker, and I spent many years not talking about this. I mainly talked about this. But after a while, what started happening was I started reading enough comments, because I read all my comments, And I just started realizing so much of why people can't get there has to do with this, that I started talking about it more over the last 4 or 5 years. But I think they both matter. You could be the most optimistic, happy person up here, but if you don't put in the work, and if you don't know what work to put in, it's not gonna happen. Optimism is very close to delusion. However, I believe that optimism is the fuel to practicality, right? If you don't believe you're doing it for a reason or it's exciting, you're not gonna wanna put in the hours of the work. And so that's who I've always been. I've always been ambitious and happy. I was very fortunate. I had a tremendous mother who loved me very, very much, so I felt good. However, she did not create entitlement. When I lost or when I was doing bad, she told me. She didn't make a fake environment, which is a huge factor. And to be honest, my biggest concern about the last 20 years of parenting, too much fake environments, too much entitlement, which is why so many people struggle when they go into the real world, because the real world doesn't care. The real world is not your mama anymore. And so I think about those things. Fast forward, I was very good at selling baseball cards. When you're making $3,000 or $4,000 a weekend when you're 14 years old, you've got it. I was good, fine. But then my dad eventually bought a liquor store and he dragged me into the liquor store when I was 14. I started making $2 an hour, bagging ice. This was huge for me. If I didn't have that transition, all the money I was making as a young kid, it came so easy because I was naturally talented. I think not having that struggle of losing all that because my dad forced me to work in the store and making $20 a day, that really helped me. And I learned a lot in that liquor store. Most of all, what I learned was to watch people. Today, after this talk, I will go to the airport and on my flight, I will literally read most of the comments on Twitter, on Instagram, your DMs. I will read them and I'll read them to understand, was there anything I said in this hour that stood out, that didn't hit, that did hit? I learned that watching people, and more importantly, understanding people, and most importantly, being empathetic to people was the best way to build a real business. So I flew all the way here, 24 hours, to put pressure on what is the most obvious conversation, which is, are you prepared to finally get quiet in your head and not allow the opinions of others to dictate your behaviors? Every person here knows what they want to do. If you're here today, there's something running through your mind that you want to do. There is no reason for you to be here today unless there's something running through your mind that you want to do. How many people here are over 40 years old? Raise your hands. Raise them high, raise high. Don't be scared, raise high. There's no, Jesus Christ, this is a young crowd. For the very small percentage of us here that are over 40, what, thanks brother. There's like 8 of us, bro. For like the 11 of us, look, this is a lot of fun. For the 11 of us, we lived life before this. We were grown. We were grown-ups already before the internet came. I was 18 years old. I'd lived my life, at least the childhood part of my life, without the internet. The biggest thing that excites me, especially in a mature internet market like here, WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Spotify, like there's so much opportunity and you don't even have to leave your home. There was no building your life, after hours when I was growing up. When you had a job and you had to take care of something, you didn't then start another job because it was late. But now this allows it. The biggest thing that I want to get across in this little moment of this speech is everybody in here is taking this for granted. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, they didn't have this. If you aren't succeeding or attacking your success with this in your hand, then what are you doing? Every single person here has the opportunity to create a profile and a presence online, whether it's yourself or your business or your idea, and the cost is zero. I love when people get mad when Facebook or Instagram's organic reach goes down. I keep reminding them it's free. There was never a time I didn't feel that I would be feeling like this. But I think that has to do with this weird obsession of simplicity that I had at a very young age. My mom lost her mom at 5. My dad lost his dad at 15. I would argue that the majority of my childhood, I was scared my parents were gonna die. Yeah. And so every day I was just like grateful that nothing bad happened.
It's all a bonus.
Yeah, and so I think that I was just focused on really heavy shit as a young child. And so, yeah, like I never, ever, this is actually, I don't think I've ever said this. I've never strived for happiness. It's just always been there. You know?
Yeah.
I've never thought in my life. It's just so interesting. This moment's fun for me. I've never had the perspective of like, one day I'll be happy. It's always been, I'll always be happy, no matter what happens. Because every day that I've been given that's been good is good, like it's good. And I'm ready for adversity and I'm ready for challenges. This is the key. We started with this, with sports. I lost so much so early because I played so much and competed so much and got into fights. It was the 80s, we fought in Jersey. I really think that I got fortunate, and I think that that is the driver for me of why I do what I do. There's probably a good mix of guilt and gratitude that makes me want to be Garyvee for people, because I know how blessed, just like you at 13, when you were somewhere in Asia and you went back to Australia, like, wait a minute, I'm really fortunate. I think I've always known that my chemicals were just a little bit more right here. I didn't have the physical shit that you had, and the beauty, by the way, and some other stuff.
I would have fight you, though. No chance.
But this shit, yeah, this shit, like, I've never been confused that I'm in the Hall of Fame on, and this shit, you know, and this shit. Those two things, I just think I'm blessed and I'm grateful, and that's how I navigate my life.
So on a lighter note, I know you're into pickleball.
Yes.
But that's not the question. So when you are going to buy the Jets one,
yes,
we know that. What's your first move to get the Lombardi Trophy? This is, and remember, this is going to go a lot of places.
Listen, I'm so prepared for this question. I've been thinking about buying New York Jets since I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade. That was about the time I realized I was unlikely to play for them, because up until that point, that was the dream. I'm going to audit the shit of the organization. I'm going to buy the team. And then the next day, I'm gonna meet every person, from the person that's been there for a week, that's in concessions at the stadium, to the person drafting and the general manager. And I'm gonna meet every single person. And I'm gonna do what at that point in 30 years, I'll be 78, I'll do what I've done for the last 55 years professionally, which is audit the human beings that I'm around and understand, are they good at the craft? But more importantly, are they good in their soul? And I'm going to make decisions based on that audit, and then make some changes, inevitably, build some people up that I see something in that are not in the best place, and double down on the people that I think are wonderful already, and build the most epic, human-based, capable football organization in the world, and that will directly correlate in us winning a Super Bowl.
What a plan.
Yeah, I mean, you know, back to like the whole point of my life, honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm gonna be happy when I buy them.
Yeah.
Chasing them is everything.
Yeah.
Like the enjoyment I have right this second, thinking about it, trying it, the business call I had in the parking lot before I walked in, that's important.
Yeah.
Like, it's all little pieces to get there. But I weirdly think when I get there, it's I'm already like worried about it.
You'll never stop, your mind.
No, I won't. And I'll obviously care about other things, and I'll be in a different part of my life, the back half of my life, but it's the chase. It's always been the chase for me. The chase is like everything.
And like, how do you balance that with like your normal life? So kids.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like how do you do that?
By not overjudging myself. There is no balance.
True.
Who gets to decide? You?
There's no work.
You, me? Yeah. There's only, there is work-life balance, but it's individual.
Yeah.
For every one of the people that are watching and listening, them and their family today. And then in a year, it changes again. And then 6 months, it changes again. Life moves. What looks like work-life balance. So I'm not trying to achieve work-life balance based on the world's current definition of it. Because 30 years ago, the definition of it was very different than it's gonna be in 30 years. So how do I do it? Intent. I just want to make the people I love as happy as possible to the best of my ability. But I also know that if I don't make myself happy, it's game over.
Well, interesting you said this because I did, I spoke with Jay Shetty and he said that if you don't have time to recharge yourself, you can't make the other people around you, happy at all.
The number one observation I know, and I have a family that's pretty unique. I have plenty of family members that are super, super optimistic and happy, and plenty of close family members who are incredibly cynical and not as happy. And there is just one through line on it all. Whoever likes themselves most is given sunshine, and whoever doesn't like themselves most is given darkness. And so a lot of times people try to do nice by others and don't realize that they're building resentment toward those people, which then flips and then they start going dark. You have to be in a place where you're looking at yourself. The other thing is, most people listening and watching are not gracious enough to themselves. This concept of beating yourself up for what you're not just kills me.
Yeah.
Like every one of us in this room and everyone listening is good at stuff and not good at stuff.
Yeah.
And why we choose what we put on a pedestal and not, when people are like, you're the great, I'm like, I'm a good businessman, I'm happy, I get it, I'm a good businessman.
You deserve a bit more credit.
Yeah, I think I have an old soul and I have some wisdom, I get it. But still, like, let's play it out. You and I live a unique life where we are publicly known.
Yep.
And one day, unfortunately, it's gonna be a wrap.
Yes.
And what's gonna happen? We're gonna get 24 hours, if we're lucky, on some love, on whatever social media is on that. Our family will care more for a little bit, but then all of them, family included, are gonna have to wake up in a year, fans in 24 hours, family in 3 to 6 months, and everyone's moving. And so, why I say that is, like, if you're gonna be dead forever, and you weren't born for a long time, and so in this little window that all of us have, why not try to fight for enjoyment? And I'm very passionate about that. I still, to this day, would argue that I try too hard to stay in the dirt. Like, I don't put driver or private or stuff on a pedestal. I put the process on a pedestal. I put kindness and civility to other human beings on a pedestal. Like, I don't mind, I don't judge, or I'm not confused why people want things. I just don't think my life is better with it. I think my time is more efficient.
Yep.
I understand why it's good to have some things for time, which I value, so I understand it. But I don't need anything, Nick. Like, I think that's the thing that I'm spending time thinking about now, is I don't need anything.
I resonate with that. Like, I look back from where I started and now I've got everything I need, and I feel the same way. I don't need anything. Like, sitting here interviewing you and talking with you never thought that would be happening, and it's just, I resonate with it a lot, and it kind of gets my next.
Let's stay on that. Let me ask you a question, just as we chop it up, because since I do a podcast, I know how to do it too. Like, on that note, I believe that most people need stuff for other people, not themselves. I actually think deep down, none of us need anything else. Like, you need a little bit of love in your life. Obviously, you need a roof over your head and some food, but basics.
But when did you realize that you had something that most people don't, like the work ethic or like the drive?
Yeah, and I think in those videos, this is what's fun about long form podcasts. I don't view it as like I work 19 hours and you work 15. Yep. I think of it as like just the pure intent and the effort in every moment. And so people can't work harder than me because they can only be tied with me. Right before we went on, we were giving Joker some love, right? Like, there's many different people. There's plenty of people on earth that work more hours than me. There's plenty of people that work the way I work. I'm looking at some of them right now behind the cameras that are 100 when they work. as somebody who was in school and gave 2% effort and everything was everything but what was going on, in work, it's 100.
Yep.
I'm like unreachable for 10 hours a day. Every minute is booked, but it's not even about being booked. It's like when you lock in a big match. You can't even hear it.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't, and that's how I am every moment that I work, because I love it. And because I was trained to do it. Look, I'm from immigrant parents who worked every minute. My mom raised 3 kids. I never saw someone helping ever. I didn't know what a house cleaner was. I didn't know what a babysitter was. I didn't know what a cook was, a driver. I never even heard of that shit.
Yeah.
That was on some Robin Leach Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Yeah, like I didn't, and we also grew up in a neighborhood where, like, I mean like nobody had it.
Yeah.
There was no such thing. I don't even know what we're talking about. So I watched 2 people in front of me work every minute to build a family, to build a life. And then I was 14 and I'm working in my dad's store. I was working 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 hours. So I'm just built. It's like training. You know, when I think about my childhood, I'm the byproduct of tremendous parenting. You know, for the first 14 years of my life, that was my mom. My dad worked at his liquor store every hour. I barely saw him. And then from 14 to 22, I got to spend a lot of time with my dad and learn some really good, you know, old world principles that I think make me me. And so, you know, but to answer you more directly in the way I think you're asking, competitive. You know, it's fun to talk to a professional athlete about this. I believe we've really lost our way with competition and parenting.
Yep.
These 8th place trophies, telling a kid that's crying when he loses, this doesn't matter, it's just a game. I think modern parenting has lost our way. If I think about my childhood, the first word that comes to mind is competition. Yep. From 6 to 15, I barely remember anything other than competing. Backyard football, tennis, darts, video.
Anytime we lost, I felt like shit the whole day. I wanted to redo it, go again.
Well, I believe anyone that's achieved things as a parent, as a professional, as an athlete, as a business person, I think normally, if they've achieved big, they're normally the kid that cried when they lost or struggled with it because they cared. I think indifference is a pandemic. It doesn't matter, chill, indifference is a problem. And I think when you tell a kid everybody wins, you're teaching indifference, it's not real life. And so my relationship with losing as a child was foundational.
Yeah.
So I think competition, then I think entrepreneurship, like it would snow in New Jersey when I was 8 and every kid went out with a sled and was fired up to make a snowman. And I grabbed a shovel from my garage and was ringing doorbells and was looking to shovel your driveway for $3. So I was very entrepreneurial, lemonade stands. It was just selling something. It was very entrepreneurial. And then just joyful. You know, I think an important thing I think a lot about is who are the people that are luckiest in their circumstance with their upbringing? And I've come to a place at 48 now where I think a child who grows up in a family that is happy and doesn't have a lot, she or he is set up for massive success. Because from the get, they're taught that there's not a correlation between money and happiness. And so I grew up that way with very humble beginnings, but my mom was sunshine, everything was good, always. Even when it was a struggle, I never, like it was just all happy, love, unconditional love, and that set me up.
Well, I have a direct quote from you. I was a kid, I had the best mum of all time, and everything was rainbows, but we were poor as fuck.
Yes.
It's like, I was reading through all your quotes and I was like, me too, like I didn't have, you know, a lot, but I just had the best childhood. Like I only knew that my parents made me so happy and I was playing tennis and they gave me all these opportunities. But then I realized looking back, I'm like, we really didn't have that much. They just made everything.
Same. I was only in my 30s where I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like they stopped buying me shit at like 11. Like it was my norm. And that makes sense to me. It also, when I found out about you, that's what allows people like you and I, and the many that are watching that are doing it in their fields, professions, lives, the courage to do shit.
Yep.
When I see what you do, I don't look at it as like ridiculous or flashy or this. Look, do I think that you are naturally just an entertaining human being? Yes, I do. But no, I see it as courage.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun to ask why.
Yeah, I mean, my entire childhood playing tennis, I was always asking coaches, why am I doing this? And I'm playing these shots under pressure where everyone's like, why is he doing that? He's got no discipline. He's not he's not like thinking straight out there. And I'm only playing this because in the moment it feels right to me. And then I look at all these kids that are trying to play this way, and it's inspiring for me. Like, it's like a lot of kids are watching me play and they're enjoying it and they're happy.
And they make their version of it.
Yeah.
You know, you were affected by the people that you saw on the come up.
Yeah.
Both pro and, like, we're affected by what we see. And so, like, everybody that you watched in whatever capacity you watched, that's affecting you. And you are now affecting them. And I view it, because I see the world, I think, more similar to you, I see it as courageous and curious when you're doing what you're doing. But I also think it's encouraging. I mean, especially your Wimbledon run, it was fun for me because I've been watching for a long time, and obviously you hit more of the public consciousness with that. And of course that means everyone's gonna do what they do with me and others. Hot take, people immediately loved you, immediately disliked you. But it allowed me at a lot of drinks and dinner tables and around friends and acquaintances to talk about the power of curiosity, the power of why, the courage of not being scared to break out, especially when it's silly ass shit. In a world where there's real shit going on, is a red fucking hat that serious? And I think these things matter and these conversations matter. And I don't think that they're I think most people underestimate, and I'll use tennis terms, the Agassi of it all, the McEnroe of it all, the Connors of it all. I think they underestimate the importance of those people and what they do to create new conversations. And I think that's powerful. I think good trouble is important. I think it's how we advance the world. I think good trouble means to me finding new ways to accept people under new norms. And most of all, in the arena I play in, entrepreneurship, there's no way to succeed without causing it. You know, if you're not causing good trouble, it means you're an employee.
Well, I guess like in my kind of what I do, tennis world, you kind of get taught to be, you know, follow the rules, very different to your world. So I guess.
Well, not really. This is why I fuck with you so much. What you do on the court is what I did on the stage. In 2009, when I started public speaking, all the biggest speaking bureaus in the world reached out to me and said, if you start wearing a suit instead of being so casual, and if you stop cursing, you will become one of the biggest speakers in the world. And it was really interesting. I was 34, I understood what was going on in my life, I saw the opportunity, and again, going back to the title, Good Trouble, you know, one may see me in 2009 cursing and wearing casual in business environments on stage as trouble, but I saw it as good trouble. And what I mean by that was, I'm incapable of being anybody but myself. It wasn't a very complicated conversation. I'm a businessman. These are multiple individuals telling me that I will be able to do more business if I compromise on these two things. What's crazy is 99% of things for me are easy to compromise on. I don't have conviction about them. I don't care about them. Many things. But if I care, I don't know how not to. And I cared to feel comfortable. And there was no way for me to spit it unless I was comfortable.
Do you feel like, you know, when you go up on stage and you're wearing what you want to wear, you're going about things the way you want to go about them, like, do you feel like you got punished for that in any way? Because like when I'm at Wimbledon and I'm wearing a red hat and white tradition and paying fines here.
Well, this is what's great about entrepreneurship. You get punished because there's systems in charge and you pay a fine and things happen. I get punished with the opportunities I didn't get. Do I believe that there was tons of people that are like, this guy's awesome, and put my video up and the boss looked at it and said, we're not hiring that dude. I was getting punished without seeing it. The cool thing though is, usually when something comes along, it seems like an enigma, but sometimes it's the preview. When Allen Iverson came up, people thought it might be the enigma, but he was the preview. Every NBA player was gonna look like him 15 years later. When I came up and started doing what I was doing, I seemed like the enigma. Today, most people that give keynote speeches are pretty casual. I mean, today, when people wear a business suit to a business meeting, they usually make a joke about it because now that seems out of range. So, you know, for me, of course I was being punished. I was missing out on tons of opportunities that the 2009 business world made decisions on, but I couldn't see it the way you can see it. Because I wasn't in an organization, a company, a part of a tour.
Well, I still don't say it that way. I still do whatever anyway.
Well, that goes back to just being happy.
Yep.
Like I don't understand why anyone deem success anything other than finding as much happiness as often as possible. You know, and that comes in many forms. Unfortunately, I think modern society looks at success through a lens of finances.
It's much more than that.
It's much more than that. And that's how I view that. You know, for many people it seems silly to pay that fine. You've worked very hard for a long time to be able to afford to pay that fine to make yourself happy. Will the group have enough patience to see the results? I was on Twitter from 2007 to 2011, and I replied to every single person that tweeted at me, and in the beginning, because nobody knew who I was, I went to Twitter search, and I searched the word wine and other wine terms, found people talking about it, jumped into the conversation, and left good information. I did that for 7 to 8 hours a day for 4 years before anybody gave a fuck about who I was. Let me say that slowly one more time. For 7 to 8 hours a day, for 4 years, I would go to Twitter search wine terms, jump into them, and give information for 4 years before anybody gave a fuck who I was. Now I get DMs from people saying, in 3 weeks I'll get a DM from somebody here saying, Gary, saw you in Jakarta, it was awesome. I started doing stuff, I'm not getting any traction. I reply, that's nice, Mario, you've been doing it for 3 fucking weeks. The level of let me take a real step back. If you're sitting in this chair and you want to do something that makes you happy and makes you money, let's just say that. I have no idea what people want in here, but fine. How many people happy money? Raise your hands if you want happy money. Raise it, don't be scared. Great. Let me ask you a question. If you have the audacity to be happy and have money, which, by the way, the amount of people that have lots of money and are very happy is very small. It just is. If you want to be happy and have money, don't you think it should take a long time and it should be hard? Right? That to me has been the most interesting thing. In this world that everything's so fast, and this world where 1 or 2 people look like Mark Zuckerberg or Travis, like where you can point to 1 or 2 people. You know, I don't know if you heard, there's 7.7 billion of us. But because you can point to 1 or 2 people that got it fast and a lot, all of a sudden everybody thinks it should be fast and a lot. At 34 years old, after working for 12 years, helping build my family business, I left my family business and I had no money. 34, no money. How many people here younger than 34? Raise your hands. D-Rock, where are you? Hold on, keep them up. D-Rock, where are you? Yo, right here, come here, look at this. Put the lights on, hands up. Look at this. Every hand here, stand up, actually, if you raised your hand, stand up. Every person here standing is under 34 years old. When I left Wine Library day to day at 34 years old, I had nothing. When I started VaynerMedia, we started it in Buddy Media's conference room because I didn't have dollars to spend on rent. Imagine how early I think you are in your life. My friends, it's early. It's early for 100% of the people in the room. It's ridiculously early for 95% of this room. This internet thing, it's big. It's real big. We haven't even started. Please understand how lucky, that's the only word I have for it, how lucky you are that you get to live during this era. Right now, anything that comes out of your mouth that is complaining makes your grandfather want to punch you in the fucking face. You understand? Do you understand how much better you have it than every generation before you? This is such a ridiculously special time, and literally the far majority of this room is not gonna take advantage of it because of the insecurity of worrying about somebody who they don't even know leaving a comment that they're ugly. Are you literally not gonna take advantage of the actual ability to be happy and successful because somebody comes on your account and says, you're stupid? But this is what's playing out. This is what's happening. I mean, look at different cultures. On the way here, do you know that one of the biggest things that was DM'd here is that there's a lot of people coming here by themselves and they wanted advice how to say hello to somebody that they didn't know? What are you scared of? They're gonna bite you? We are living in a very fascinating time. A very fascinating time. It reminds me of when new countries are born and people buy up real estate. The attention of this room is real estate. You're trying to get it. Everybody's living on these things. It's gonna happen more, not less. You can judge it, that's fine, but that's what's gonna happen. And so if you are not producing words and videos and sounds for these 7 platforms, you almost don't exist. Now, what you say, though, matters very much. And let me give you a couple advice points from somebody who's really won. The number one thing you have to always do is talk about what you know. I watch people try to talk about stuff they don't know every single day because it's hot. Whether it's cannabis or sports betting or blockchain or social media, people start talking about things they don't know anything about because they're trying to grab. They think they're gonna get a fast score. Everybody wants a fast score. Do you know how many people have emailed me crying about buying Bitcoin at 10,000 a coin? Because it was gonna be 100,000 in a year. People are looking for fast scores. You know how many people here spent $800 on a course because it was gonna happen fast? Fast is bad. Fast is bad. Fast if you have talent and the right intent is amazing. Fast if you want cash immediately. So, please understand the world you're living in. Take it into context. Understand how remarkable this era is. Next, this is the most important word. You have to deploy self-awareness. My friends, self-awareness is the most important word. If you don't know who you are, you have no shot. But do not be embarrassed of who you are. When I knew that I was an entrepreneur in the 80s, I got D's and F's in school, and that was not acceptable in the 80s and 90s in America. If you were a bad student in America in the 80s and 90s, you were a loser. My friends' parents looked at me as I was a loser. But I knew who I was self-aware. I knew that I was an entrepreneur. I wanted to go and sell things on the weekend. I wanted to study the prices of wine and baseball cards instead of studying for school. I knew who I was. Playing video games seemed like a waste of time 20 years ago. Now there are people who make $50 million a year playing video games. If there is something you know and you like and you're passionate about, but it's not cool right now or important, do not deviate away from your thing. Triple down on your thing. The other thing is, be self-aware. How many people here are an entrepreneur or want to be? Raise your hands, I'm just curious. It's a lot of hands. The reality is, most of you can't be successful. I mean that. I'm not saying it to razz. It's rare to be a successful entrepreneur. It's hard. It's a real talent. We don't think it's a talent now because it's so easy to say you're one. One of the most important things about being self-aware is knowing, do you have the stomach to be an entrepreneur? Putting entrepreneur in your Instagram account, easy. Living the life of an entrepreneur where nobody else is on the line except you, hard, lonely, scary, difficult. If you do it because it's cool or you think it's right or you're not self-aware, it leads to depression and loss of money. If you deploy self-awareness and realize you're a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, you find an entrepreneur and you win. Self-awareness. You have to understand who you are. Without it, you are massively vulnerable in society. I believe that self-awareness and the ability to actually give without expectation are the 2 bricks of happiness. and it's been a big factor for me, which has allowed me to go fast. When you're stable, you can go fast because you're not worried about judgment. I've been able to do a lot of things because I'm not scared to lose. Because if I lose, it's my loss. If I lose money or time, it's my loss, not yours. I don't care what you say in the comments. That lack of fear is what gives an entrepreneur an advantage. That lack of fear is what lets somebody live life in happiness. We have to start having more important conversations of the operating system of your life. There are people here that work more on upgrading their phones than upgrading their minds. I mean it. I mean it. I am desperate. Listen, to come here all this way to talk about tactics is a waste of time. To come all this way and have one person in here gain actual courage to do something is super worth it. And for me, it's a very simple game. Let me give a very big secret to all the kids here who are living their lives for their parents or based on their parents' judgment. There's a very big secret that parents never tell you. If you go the other direction of where they want you to go and you become really successful, they are really proud and make pretend they never pushed you in the other direction. There is no correlation of hard work to true mental health issues. I think it's been a Band-Aid conversation. Hard work is remarkably enjoyable when you like what you're doing, and it's not when you don't. I think the world in the last 15 years has gotten this thing wrong. From the day I started talking about hustle or hard work, it always was connected directly to having a passion for it. People separated it and tried to weaponize it. And a lot of people have demonized work ethic and hard work without the understanding of the enjoyment. For example, I demonize hard work in the gym. I do not want to do it. Thus I would make fun of it or not like it. And so for me, the thought of working so hard that I would be upset is literally the reverse of how I see it. I see it as, I work so hard because I enjoy it. It's my game. I got into all of those hours because I didn't want to stop doing it. Like playing a video game or like reading a book. And so I think the world is very confused. Mental health issues is a very complex issue. It's a word that's thrown around today. First of all, thank God we have it because there are many people with it. But I don't think anyone's confused. It's also been so loosely used that people today use, I have a mental health issue for something that people 25 years ago said, I'm a little inconvenienced today. That's an extreme change of behavior. And so how do I balance it? By knowing there's no correlation to it. People putting pressure on themselves because they're insecure is leading to it. Not like, if someone's insecure, they may think that I have to work 12 hours a day to make $1 million because that $1 million is gonna show them that I'm good. That's not work ethic, that's insecurity. Our issues in the world right now are insecurity and entitlement. You're talking to a DNF student. You know how much I worked in high school? 0. Do you wanna hear something insane? You guys are all pretty young, so this might still be quite easy to remember. I'm gonna say something nice and slow. I need you all to hear this. This is not a hyperbole. This is not a lie. This is not a joke. I did 0 pieces of homework in my entire 4 years of high school. I read 0 pages of a book in my 4 years of high school. So I don't think you should work hard if you don't like it. I think the world's got this super reversed and it confused all of you. It confused everyone. Don't burn yourself out. Don't even do it. What do you, people are looking at the cause, not the root. We created entitlement. which created Insecurity. We are a global power. The world is unbelievably ridiculous. Do you understand that if you're on this Zoom right now, how luxurious your life is? But you're gonna focus on it not, because you're gonna see a TikTok that says, Gen Z can't be as successful. People are fucking, as their parent, like, they are pushing bullshit on you.
That's quite a thought. Thank you so much, Gary.
You're welcome.
Pass to Jimmy.
It really, you know, just to finish the thought, it's really fucked up. Like the thought that you work yourself into, work is a byproduct of what's actually inside of you. It's not the fucking root. There's only two people that work super hard. The people that fully love it, and they'd rather do it. I was in the office till 10:30 at night last night because it's more fun for me than going skiing or doing karaoke. And then there's the reverse. The people that are so fearful and so insecure, they think just like getting straight A's in school, by working 12 hours, it's gonna fix it. They don't know themselves. And what's really sad is it's convinced a lot of people that don't try. That's real fucked up. Our prosperous society of the last 30 years has taught people indifference. And indifference leads to depression. If it doesn't matter, the fuck are you doing? All of it matters. Everything matters. Fucking 8th place trophies. I'm gonna be historically right as fuck about 8th place trophies. Just putting it on the record. Will be heralded when I'm dead.
What advice you would give someone or how to best go about finding that passion? And I think that for me, it's not about a timeline, it's just like eventually finding it. So how do you think is the best way to go about that? And how Vayner can I could use Vayner to my advantage in finding what that might be.
So Vayner is a place that's willing for you to like switch from media to like client, from client to analytics, so it's huge. So doing things for, you can't be like too squeaky about it. Like if you decide to go into project management, do that for a year, then you can maybe talk about like 6 months later, so you're in it for 18 months. To your point, like if you discover it by the time you're 35, you're gonna win. So that's like real, and like I know that's like crazy because when you're 22, 35 seems like 1,000. So if you keep that in mind and you use Vayner in two ways, being able to move if you feel like you haven't found it, and by being social and like doing things, like you should be signing up for classes. Like you need to people are like, I can't find what food I like. I'm like, go eat food. Like if you were to ask me like, how do I know, Gary, what my favorite food is? I'm like, Haley, by eating shit. Like you've got to go eat oysters and sweetbreads and uni and tacos and banana. Like you have to eat shit, right? Same with this. Like you should be spending, like people who really dwell or are concerned, or on the flip side, are passionate and excited about finding their thing, well, you've got to find it. So like, cool, you have your day job at Vayner, but then join every club, everything that's here, the softball team, the this, and then like push yourself, like go do a ballroom dancing class, right? Take a course on Coursera for like accounting, like unless you're tasting, you don't know.
Mm-hmm. How do you handle rejection on a personal basis? I know that you said like giving no fucks, like not giving a fuck is the key to do it all, but how do you really go into having that mindset? Like how do you build that?
By knowing I don't have control.
Yeah.
Right, Gracie? Like I'm not the client on Pepsi, or I'm not the viewer of my video, or like, it's all based on humility. This is so fun for me to say. I wish there was a God of humility and she sat down right now and showed all of our scores. I'll bet my life that I'm the most humble person in here. But nobody would think that, they would think the reverse. I think people do not understand how much lack of humility is running through their body. As if you should be taken seriously. I love when people are like, yo, I should be taken serious. I'm like, why? I had somebody come in pretty hot from the creative team, was like, my ideas are not being taken serious. I'm like, okay. I was like, are you on social? They're like, yeah. I'm like, show me. They showed me all their social. I'm like, I would never take you serious. You're horrible at content. Not because of my opinion, because none of your shit does anything. We lack humility. The reason I can deal with it, Gracie, is because I don't think I'm special. Even as Garyvee now, the way my brain thinks about it is like, cool, that's what I've done every day before today.
Right.
But today my idea or my thing might be bad. You know?
Mm-hmm.
The ability to deal with rejection is completely predicated on your relationship with your own humility. You'll love this one, I'll end it on this. Yes, I don't give a shit about other people's opinions, but I also don't think my shit's right.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing I would tell you is, I can tell you for sure, many of you are incredibly over audacious without having done anything yet. And I say that not as a razz, I say that to liberate you and make you happier. You know, it's a good thing.
Very good thing, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a good thing. Like, please have unlimited conviction. I hope one of you have my job in this company one day. I literally pray to God that I'm looking at the future CEO of VaynerX. But, you know, you gotta get there first. What makes me happy is knowing that I'm giving more than I'm taking. It just does. It's also my kryptonite. It's what allows me, and I'm very self-aware, and I'm a communicator. I am absolutely aware that in my 80s or 90s, I could become a very resentful old man. I genuinely believe that right now. And I'm trying to do actions in my 40s now to curtail that. You know, first way to fix something is to acknowledge it. I believe that I give so much, and I've already sensed certain resentment times with my dad, my family, like I have, that I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I need to be careful here. I live on optimism in the future, thus I'm always willing to not take as much because I've got more time. I'm the more talented one. I can always do it. And I think when I get to 80, 90, or if I get terminally ill, I always get scared about getting terminally ill because I feel like I am so optimistic and happy for the future that I could go into deep depression. And so I think about that. I think my vulnerability is my gift. And so what makes me happy is giving more than I take, but I want to be more thoughtful about that going forward because I also don't want that to lead to, you know, resentment down the stretch when I don't see as much time or I don't have as much energy, you know?
Totally. Okay. Well, I'm afraid we're running out of time, so I kind of want to close out on one last question, kind of to wrap up. And, you know, as we kind of look out into the horizon, out into the future, you know, given that you are a businessman and such a successful one at that, you know, you run a major corporation, also have your hand in so many other companies. You know, like as we look at all of the conversations happening around social good and progress, I'm wondering if you see a solution, you know, like one of the things that has continued to come up is the concept of like boycotting businesses that aren't toting the morals that we want to see in society.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where you stand on that. What do you think is effective moving forward for us to push for the world that we want to live in?
By individual actions.
And also the role of businesses in doing that as well.
By individual actions. I don't like to impose my altruism on other people. I think we've become way too judgmental without context. And my answer to your question is, we need to lead by action, not by words. Everyone's a tough guy on social. Do you know how many people hashtagged boycott XYZ, but are now using that? So my point of view on this is when we start having conversations where it sounds like you all should, or we should, for me, and by the way, I admire ones that rally, but I like to, for me, I like to do it through action. I'm driven by gratitude. Yeah. I'm incapable of being upset around things that don't matter. And everything besides the health of 9 people doesn't matter. When a parent of mine passes away, that 11 will become a 0. Yeah, right. For a day, a month, a year, I don't know. I haven't crossed that bridge. But I have put myself in a very interesting box mentally, which is My perspective is binary. It is black and white. Either the 9 or 10 or 11 people I love the most are healthy and woke up this morning and didn't die, and thus I'm fully happy, or not. And losing an account or having people write something bad about me or having a PR headache or something didn't work out the way I wanted or somebody stabbed me in the back or it resonates for a second. Maybe it gets, extremely difficult things that I notice contemporaries struggle with carry 3 minutes of anxiousness with me, 65 seconds of inconvenience, if it's traumatic, maybe a couple of hours before it translates into, this really doesn't matter.
So it's all what you say to yourself at the time, or do you practice developed over time?
I probably have spent the last 15 years of my life making pretend that my mom died.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. I do a lot of things where something great happens or something bad happens, and I make pretend, and then the phone rang and my mom died. So how would I feel? Would I feel like this huge trophy I just got meant anything? No. Would I feel like this terrible thing that happened in business today was terrible? No. So yeah, I've been practicing for a very long time.
That's a really amazing way to look at things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love that.
it really works for me.
I can see how it would work, but it's not something anyone would think of.
Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about putting out more in the world. Like really just think about it. Like just really wake up and go to sleep every night and make pretend the singular person you love the most just died in a horrific accident. I know it, no, I get it, but look, I want to be very empathetic. People are watching this. We all know the majority of the world deals with issues. They're watching a man who just said he's an 11 on the 1 to 10 happiness scale. That can come across very insincere. And the follow-up to why I'm there is an extreme different kind of thought process that isn't talked about in contemporary times that I would like to argue is worth a debate. Whether it works for others or not, I don't know. But it is what I do. It is what I do. And
if people are seeing you as being so successful, they want to know how your brain ticks. So maybe these little things are things we haven't thought about but should be thinking about.
And if they look at my success as an ability to walk around very light versus the money I've made or the followers I have, then the hack that I just gave is even more powerful. Yeah. And I would argue that a lot of my business success comes from the fact that I have not had to take a lot of hours ever in 25 professional years to sit and worry about something that's happening outside the business.
Amazing.
I'm giving it my all, carefree, and that's how I see it. I read an enormous amount of comments. I watch what people consume. I have an obnoxious amount of conversations. There's not an influencer on earth that is more in their community than me, and I'm actually busy because I respect and obsess over my community in a way that I just have not seen anybody else do. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I feel it's a little bit of an audacious statement, but there is something clearly, deeply entrenched in my soul that is petrified to ever sell out, which makes me feel like I overcorrected in my kindness and human. I don't know what else to say. Like that's I'm trying to analyze me from afar, like my only something is happened or in me that is just petrified of hypocrisy or being full of shit that just has completely just makes me happy. Honestly, and by the way, back to staying grounded. Staying grounded. It's predicated on that. Like I don't even know any other option. I just don't know. I don't know. It would scare the living shit out of me for somebody who actually knows me to say something bad about me. They could speak to my flaws or shortcomings, which I have plenty of like anybody else. But my spirit, my intent, my humanity, no fucking way. The main concept of day trading attention is trying to use the concept of day trading, which is really on the second of the day trading, buying and trading stocks second to second, buying a stock and selling it a couple minutes later. Very different than buying a stock and selling it a year later. Day trading. trading day to day, like transacting second to second, moment to moment, and layering that on the concept of attention. So the concept of where are the eyes and ears of society? More and more TikTok and Spotify, less and less the radio in your car and network television. By creating that framework, day trading attention, I'm able to give the thesis to everyone that I'm living in, which is the people in the world who most understand where the attention of people are, AKA these 10 to 15 social networks and streaming services that are eating up a vast majority of attention, and layering the ability to be good at it, day trading, AKA how do you make ads for it or content for it, and how do you spend media to amplify it, and recognizing that it's changing day to day, week to week, month to month, so you can't just have a good strategy today and then think it's gonna work for the next year, sets up my thesis in a real way, and more importantly, I'm not guessing. This is what I've been living for the last 15 years. This has been the landscape for the last 3 years post-COVID of every single business and person around the world, from China to Sydney to Vancouver to Brazil. And I think that people need to recognize how big the stakes are, because the ones that don't know how to day trade attention going forward will continue to lose market share. You know, it's funny, I debated calling this book Underpriced Attention, not just day trading attention, but day trading attention I think captures the macro thesis more. When you double click into it, one of my favorite things in day trading attention, actually let me rephrase, the thing that I have spent the last 15 years on every day is finding underpriced attention. Underpriced attention is exactly what it sounds like. It's you're getting more attention than the efforts you're putting in or the money you're putting in to achieve that attention against everything else you could do. So for example, always in social media, because of the way the algorithms work, there are opportunities for underpriced attention. At the moment of this recording, one of them is TikTok Live. Not posting on TikTok, but going on TikTok Live because of the way that product works, which is the longer you're on, more people discover you, which is the reverse of how Instagram works, because when you go live on Instagram, everybody who follows you is notified. They all come on, which means 5% of your audience usually, and then they start to leave because it's hard to keep people's attention forever. And there's no mechanism to share your live so easily, so you're not achieving more people. TikTok, you go on, the longer you're on, the more TikTok sees that and showing you in people's feeds, even people that don't follow you, rendering you to find new audiences. That will probably change over time. TikTok's doing that right now. Just like 5 years ago, if I made a video on Instagram that had a white border at the top and a title and a video that was under a minute, more people would see that. It was a tactic creatively that rendered the opportunity. The cost of that attention was zero in media dollars, and I kept working it to make the cost of making those videos lower and lower, hence that became underpriced attention. The organic reach of an Instagram video post under a minute. The organic reach of going live on TikTok. There are many versions of this. On LinkedIn, for high value B2B clients, the media, even though it has a set floor of how much it costs, is still an underpriced attention because the value of a B2B client is very high, and the ads on LinkedIn, if you do LinkedIn ads well, to reach a B2B client is a very good deal versus buying a $100,000 booth at a trade show and trying to get those same clients. Underpriced attention. Influencers. There are very famous influencers who would cost $100,000 to do a post for you, and you may get 1,000 customers. In that same sector, you might find an up-and-coming influencer who costs you $1,000 and gets you 1,000 customers as well, because their audience is emerging with them. They've never seen them promote an item, and thus your influencer ad with them was underpriced. Basically, every single action a business does to get customers or a human does to get attention is either properly priced, overpriced, or underpriced. As you can imagine, It is my great obsession, both personally and for the clients I work with, to be great at underpriced, to stay away from overpriced, and to round out underpriced with appropriately priced. There's so many ways to attack this, and I know for a lot of you, it might even be the first time you're grasping these concepts, and I think you take a step back, and I actually think the first thing you need to do is focus on self-awareness. You know, if you don't know yourself, you're gonna probably struggle with this complex framework, meaning, how do you find underpriced attention? How do you get good at day trading? Well, you have to first decide how are you judging it. So before you see how many followers you get, or how much reach your posts get, or how many people buy your product, you have to make the leap yourself before the action. Meaning, you're gonna make the video or the picture, and then the thing's gonna happen, so you're not gonna know. Now the question becomes, do you think you're good at judging this, or are you not? If you're not, that's actually good. One of the tenets of being good at day trading attention is humility. I've been doing this my whole life, and professionally for over 20 years, and refined for 15. And yet every day when I post, even though I look at all the math, all the quant, all the qualitative feedback, every day that I post, I know that I might not be right. And many of the posts on social or the ads that I run for my businesses, whether in the wine business for my family or the businesses I work with at Vayner or for my personal brand or for VFriends and companies, many of them don't hit the mark. It's the humility to know that's okay and I can learn from it that is really the massive part of the strategy. Having the humility and the process to make as many ads, and this is not spray and pray and throw against the wall and see what sticks. This is understanding which segmentations you're gonna make content for, do the best you can, lower or mitigate the risk on the costs and the media, and then look at the outcomes and decide what to double down on or triple down on, or what to eliminate. So humility is at the centerpiece of being great at day trading attention. The other thing that's at the centerpiece is creativity. Are you creative enough to have new, fresh ideas? And that's where humility comes in. Don't be scared of a wacky idea or something that's never been done before, or a sentence that's never been uttered. Those may be the exact things that unlock the opportunity. And then more importantly, have you put in the hours to understand the craft? Do you understand the algorithms? Do you understand the best practices? You know, the times to post, how long should the video be, thumbnails, things that, you know, I think more and more people can look into and are realizing are more important than maybe we realized in the past. And so making a commitment to the craft, these are the real tenets to a good strategy. Once you understand them, one of the reasons I always get scared when people try to outsource their marketing or this behavior is if they themselves don't understand it, how are they gonna be able to judge their employees or their agency partners? That's why I get compelled to write books like this. I wanna get people at least at a ground level of understanding because these are complex new terrains. Look, it's incredibly hard to measure success along the way when you're building brand, because that would be like you asking me or the world asking me, how do I measure if I'm a good parent? The reality is, I think we all know this, you're gonna get more insight in 25 years than you're gonna get every day, but there's gonna be proxies along the way. If a child is born and when they go to kindergarten at 6 and they punch everyone in class and they scream and run out of the classroom, something happened along the way in the first 6 years that led to that, right? If at 15 they're beloved and they have a lack of anxiety and they're smiling and they're always happy and they're beloved by everyone, I'm gonna believe that there was some good deposits put along the way for the 15 years to let that happen. When you're building something meaningful, like a brand, like a child, it's very hard to measure along the way, but there are proxies. There is things you see at 2 years old, at 4 years old, at 6 years old, at 8 years old, at 10 years old. And you're looking at your child and you're seeing how the world is accepting them and how their happiness is, how their accountability is, something we've lost along the way, you know, and other things of that nature. Same with brands. You know, when I was building my father's wine business, the way I was noticing if we were building brand was based on the fact that I had to spend less money on advertising every year, but was achieving higher sales every year because after 5 or 6 years of good work, I could see that the word of mouth and the reputation, the brand, was carrying the business. And so, I think at the end of the day, you have to measure brand based on business results, but you've got to play that out for a long time. The problem is, along the way, it's very hard to fully figure it out. And so you've got to decide what your measurement sticks are. I think looking at the business's health every 3 years is very appropriate. If I came in to do full brand for any business in the world, big or small, and the boss she said to me, Gary, I'm gonna measure you on brand in one way. Is our business up in 3 years? I can handle that. Of course, anything can happen. I could be selling something and then there was a big innovation. The world might change. There's things that can happen, but usually they don't. And within that framework, if I'm getting 3 years, I feel like I can play that game. And of course, we could put reports and justifications along the way, but getting 3 to 5 years to prove it out, that's really the punchline of brand building. Just wanna add that I really believe this conversation, more than anything we might touch on, is very important and very challenging. I am not confused that people that are in Fortune 500 land are like, that's great, Gary, but if I don't hit the MMM or the MMA or the way we measure brand internally every year, I don't get my bonus, and by the second year I might get fired. Respect. I also want to tell all the entrepreneurs, the creators, the influencers, the small business owners, you're gonna have to make those judgment calls on brand building in your gut, in your subjective opinion, every 6 and 12 months. And I'm aware that many people have tried to do a brand exercise, don't see sales results right away, and never do brand exercises again. Never sponsor something again, never do a commercial again, never do social media again. I get it, but please understand the difference for all the smaller players, the difference between brand building and sales. Look, grace to oneself is probably the thing I think about the most subconsciously. I talk so much about not beating up yourself. Like, this just becomes, the relationship you have with yourself is literally the whole game. And so my question is actually the reverse. What's the alternative, and why would you not show yourself grace? So it's really funny. When you just gave your context, I'm like, makes sense, right? You're hanging out with all these 23-year-olds, even though you look 18, by the way. You really shook me with your 30. I was like, is she in high school? So look, I view this as very practical. I don't understand why you would beat yourself up. I'm not sure why one wouldn't want to give themselves grace. The rest of the world is shitting on you at all times. Why not be kind to yourself? Don't join in, right? And really, I think what works for me, and I think this is gonna be the biggest question you need to ask yourself, is how much do you value outside validation, and from whom? I think it's really easy to give yourself grace once you don't give a fuck what people think about you, including your parents and siblings and plus ones. It gets really easy. It gets real easy. So I think one's relationship with themselves, I think, is directly correlated to their relationship with other people's opinions. I admire my mother more than life. I think she's the single best human being on earth, and I give her an unbelievable amount of credit for everything that I am. I do not live my life based on her opinions or for her validation. And I think this is what you need to be thinking about. I'll give you a good one, team. When I tell you, if you're selected to get a full-time offer versus not, I'm gonna say this very crystal clear to you. It is pure serendipity of a couple people's opinions. It is not a reflection that you're good or bad. If the God of good and bad came down after this process is done, I am sure that she would say to us, you were right about this person, but you were wrong about, it's just, that's how life works. You know what I mean? It's just serendipity. Yeah. It's just serendipity. I think too many people have been trained by school and life to think there's a right way to do shit. There is no right way. There's life. Serendipity. Some people will be like, yo, this is the fucking best. And they get a full-time gig here and they have a massive career. But guess what? You know what they don't know? Is that if they actually didn't get a job here, went to a different job, that they were gonna meet the love of their life in that job, and they would have married a much better person for them there than if they would have stayed here. How about that shit? Life.
Yeah, that's so good.
I did want to also add another question, just to follow up with Jacob and his 2 questions.
Between you and Jacob, I'm going to be out of here, and only 2 people are going to fucking ask questions. But go ahead. I'm joking. Go ahead.
Just one quick thing. I know you were born in Belarus, so I know your parents are also not American, and my parents are also not American. So I was wondering, from an immigrant's perspective, what you can speak to, especially when it comes to business and kind of, like I was talking about, having that pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I think, look, a lot of, there's a lot of immigrants on this call. I can tell visually, I'm making assumptions, but, what immigrant kids know is like, we have it different than American kids. And not that it's better or worse, and there's plenty of immigrants that are very American in their style, and there's very many Americans that are immigrants. This is a general statement. It is different. We live for our parents more outside the US than people in the US do generally. And so, but at the same token, I had a mother, again, I'm an immigrant, that didn't do to me what most immigrant families did. She didn't say that school was the only way out. She didn't think that how I acted was a reflection on her. She had her own self-esteem. So I got very fortunate. But what I would say to all the immigrants here is, you're gonna have to find that place that I just delivered earlier. You could admire and love your parents the most for what they've done for you and to set you up, but you cannot live for them. And the second you stop living for them and you live for your happiness, you actually deliver to your parents what they actually wanted all along, was for you to be happy. They just think you being happy oftentimes is good grades, good schools, money, the right husband, wife. But when it's all said and done, they just want you to be happy. And the only way for you to be happy is to not listen to them.
So how would you suggest, as, again, young professionals here at Vayner or not at Vayner, how are we going to build those connections and relationships with people?
By talking about shit that you like.
Cool, okay.
So let me break that down for you. There's a reason we have Slack and we have tons of channels with different stuff. To your point, it might be difficult for you have that combo, but you might be able to go into some of our general chats and just talk about the game last night or the restaurant you went to. People network through interests, not just through work realities, right? So, look, there's also something called breaking through with things that aren't comfortable. So let's think that through, right? To Sarah's point, as you can see, she talks about she's been working for 25 years and that's hard for her too. Let me tell you something that's hard for me, Jacob. Working out and eating well.
Yeah, that is, as someone who goes to the gym every day, it's very hard, especially the eating part.
Yeah, so for me, I could, you're a young man, but I can tell you at 38, I had never put a muscle in my body and never ate properly in my life. And so this morning when I worked out and woke up at 6:45, even though I worked until midnight last night, that wasn't easy, but I did it. And so, when someone says, hey, I struggle with networking. Well, if you value networking and you understand networking is valuable, I'm aware you may be introverted. I'm aware that it might come easier for Fernando C than you, or it may not. People are different, but just because people are different doesn't mean certain things aren't valuable, and it doesn't mean that people aren't capable to do things that don't feel comfortable or come easy to them. I don't work out and eat better now for the last 10 years for kicks and giggles or because I like it. I fucking hate it. 10 years later, I hate it. But I do it. And so there's also a little bit of that element of real life, which is it may not come easy to you, but if you think it's important, you may have to learn how to get uncomfortable. And I will tell you right now, one of the biggest issues in the world, and not for Gen Z, for boomers, for anybody who's 100 and for anyone who's one of the great issues in society right now is people aren't breaking through and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. We got real soft out here. So also another way to think about what I just said. But everything works. Life is life. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. You know what I mean? But I think finding a way to make networking easy for you and everyone here, I always think that's around common interests and tactics. I tell everybody, now we're a little bit in a virtual world, but I always told people, and anyone for these next 4 weeks that are in any of these offices, live in the cafeteria and just say hi. This is a nice place. Most people don't network well because they're scared of rejection, right? They're scared of being blown off, that they're insecure. But this is a nice place. Like, people are nice here. So saying hi is like a fruitful concept. So I think one of the most terrible things about fear is that it's the greatest virus of our time. It is humans' greatest virus. That when people take on fear, they immediately try to deploy it on someone else to feel better. And so one of the things I'm most proud of is one of my greatest strengths, but also when it goes too far, one of my great vulnerabilities is I take on my fear and I don't express it out. What I tend to do, it's very rare for me to get to the stage that I'm gonna tell you, but occasionally when I'm at the highest point of fear or concern that I can get to, I tend to just go home and just like sit within myself and almost like, if I was like a superhero, I would like go into like a ball and it's almost like, you know how like snakes shed their skin? I shed my fear by deploying gratitude to myself in almost like a meditation state. And I've only done that 2 or 3 times. Every other time I'm just doing it naturally as I'm moving. As the fear or anxiety comes in, I'm in parallel pounding myself to shed it. And usually that works for me, it never tips over. So that's how I deal with it. I don't think most people are like me. I think most people deal with fear by talking to their safest person, their mom, their husband, their best friend. I think that's nice, but what I'm very happy about is that we finally destigmatized therapy. I think the right way to deal with fear is to talk to somebody who isn't your friend or family to get it out, because when you get fear out of your mouth, you feel better. And that's what I think people should do. I've come to realize that so much is working for me because on paper, so much did not work for me as a child. You know, when you're born in a different country and you move and you immigrate, there's always gonna be struggles within that. And so I was born in the Soviet Union. We came to the US when I was 3, and you know, I lived in a studio apartment with multiple family members. It was not glamorous. I had to learn the language, and at 4 and 5 years old, got picked on quite a bit for not being able to speak English. I was an all-time atrocious student, which meant my teachers and the parents of my best friends basically shit on me and told me I wouldn't be successful. I was not ridiculously physically gifted for athletics, so I wasn't dominating in sports. And so when I think about what makes me happy, forget about financially successful, because to be very frank, something that I've decided I'm gonna spend the next 80 years of my life on is, I genuinely think as a society, we have to redefine success and dramatically start downplaying money and start playing up happiness. I appreciate that, and I really mean it, by the way. No question to me, one of the reasons I think I'm a successful entrepreneur is because I love the game, not the trophies that come from winning the game. And I think that a lot of people are chasing money because they want to buy shit to conceal insecurities and unhappiness, because we're so worried about judgment from everybody else or to prove to everybody else we're winning, and it's completely fucked and we need to completely transform it. And I'm thinking a lot about that. But on that note, all that losing as a kid made me not fear it. The enormous reason, I'm gonna rant for another 50 seconds and tell you to produce an ungodly amount of content on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, podcast. I will rant and I will push and I will prod and I'll come up with 4 classic analogies and 2 new ones because I love improv, and I'm gonna basically try to will down your fucking throat the thought that you need to put out pictures, video, and written word on the internet, on this device, at scale, because the fact that we get to be humans during this internet era where you get to post shit for free and get free distribution, and yes, eventually the organic reach of the algorithm goes down and everybody fucking cries about it, but let me remind all of you, it's fucking free. I will sit here and pound that message down your throat. I will talk about self-awareness, how you have to be good and figure out what you're good at. Are you comfortable in front of a camera? No, no big deal. Audio clip it. Great, you're not good at that? Right. I don't care how you do it. I definitely don't think you should do it like I do it. I do it my way. But if you are not producing content around your business or whatever you're trying to achieve by being here, you are in a place where you will continue to lose leverage, while the person that does produce content for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, they will continue to gain leverage. It's as simple as that. Everything that has happened in society around the human race over the last forever years has been predicated on communication. Everything that you're talking about in your life, parenting, politics, business, entertainment, is completely predicated on contextual, contemporary communication. And I have really nothing else to say. I can literally fucking leave the stage right now and feel good. I mean that. I couldn't be more passionate around getting everybody to understand that wherever we go with the Q&A right now, it's all gonna lead to one thing, which is, do you understand yourself and what you're trying to achieve? Are you in a place where you've actually started the process of not worrying about what your parents or your friends or your spouse thinks about you? And once you get into that good place, you will not fear to post content on. I do not fear posting content of me taking, a Saturday and garage sailing and buying something for $4 and selling it for $8 and having enormous joy in that, even though hundreds of comments on YouTube are, well, you lost money because of fuel and time. I don't give a fuck, Larry. I do not fear about putting out the content that I will put over the next month about everybody should invest in sports cards, because I think I'm right, and I don't care if you think I'm stupid or it's a waste of time. You can only start communicating and getting results for your business when you believe. The amount of people sitting in this room that actually don't believe in the shit they sell is devastating. You're selling it because you want money. You know how many people right now are a cannabis and cryptocurrency expert, and 5 minutes ago they were a social media expert, and a week ago they were a fucking real estate expert? You're fucking chasing. And I don't think that's a good strategy. There is nothing passive about building wealth. There is no fucking system. There's no fucking shortcut. It's a fucking marathon. I fucking worked every day for 15 years before I put out a piece of content in my life. You're not getting there quick. Nobody's fucking inventing Uber in this fucking room. We need to quantify what's happening here. And what's happening here is we are ridiculously lucky to be living right now because our grandparents didn't have the ability to have the internet in their pocket. This computer that I'm holding in my hands is more powerful than the computer that Ronald Reagan had running America in the 80s. That is insanity. We have completely not contextualized the opportunity. The other thing that we have not contextualized is time. If there's been any breakthrough in my mind over the last half decade, it's, oh shit, my ability to contextualize time slightly better than the masses is why I'm so happy. Of course I can be patient when I think 43 is young as fuck. You know how many people are sitting here at 28 fucking nervous as shit thinking they missed their moment? We need to contextualize time. When you start thinking in long terms, I mean, how many people under 40 in this room? Raise your hand. When you realize that you're gonna live 2 more full lives, 2 more, what you've just lived up to this moment, that you're gonna do that 2 more full times, all of a sudden, not getting results tomorrow feels a little bit more palpable. We lack patience. We lack patience, which leads to shit behavior because you're looking for a quick score. It's the same old shit. Business is no different than fitness. Business is no different than fitness. You want to get more fit? Eat healthy and work out. But nobody wants to fucking do it because fucking chocolate and sleeping in is fun. And celery and fucking treadmills suck shit. The reason so many people don't like my content is I've got no fucking quick move for you. I don't have it. I have no interest in selling you anything or giving you some fucking trick or fucking pandering and showing you how good I have it so you want it like me. Here's what I know about entrepreneurship. It's lonely as fuck. This game is lonely. You know what entrepreneurship is? You're on at all times. I've got fucking 5 offices globally, and right now there might be a leak in the Singapore office, and that's my fucking problem, right? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a long, long, long time. We are now in the era where entrepreneurship is cool. For everybody who is 35 and older, we grew up when it wasn't cool. For everybody who's 25 and younger, people like me seem cool now. We were fucking dorks in the 80s. And you have to understand, that's fine, but what that makes me fearful of is the following. Unless you love your game, somebody else who loves it more is gonna work harder and smarter and beat you. Please understand that self-awareness and patience are the foundation of a happy, successful business, and they are words that are not being talked about at all. You know why so many people here don't have the Instagram following they want or aspire to? It's because every fucking piece of content you put out is selfish, not selfless. You care about how many likes. I'm so fucking pumped that the likes are gone in this country. It's the single best thing. It really is. You're pandering to short-term metrics and putting out shit that you're not even happy about because subconsciously you know it will do better than the shit that you actually want to talk about. In that talk that got clipped on, there was just a lot of like complaining. Like just complaining and complaining. So by the time I got to the 18th question, I'm like, you guys are so entitled. Imagine horrible things. Because horrible things do happen. As we sat here during this podcast, some bad things happen to people that is sad. They lost someone they loved. Like bad stuff. And like, you know, I don't know how not to think about that. Like there's almost 1 billion people on earth that don't have access to clean water. Do you know how insane that is? Like I don't know. I don't know how to unsee that. There is literally 780 million people right now, predominantly in Africa and parts of India and parts of Asia, that literally within a 12-hour window can't get to a cup of fresh water. And then I have to listen to DMs about like, why I don't have $1 million?
Yeah.
Like I just don't, like, do you understand that every human being that's in Las Vegas right this minute for this week should fucking kiss the ground and be fucking thankful as fuck? They have nothing to complain about in real 8 billion people in life. But that's not how life works. You live in your little reality, and when shit goes awry within your reality, it's annoying because you have it so good and you haven't contextualized the macro perspective of how remarkable you. There's no human watching this clip right now that doesn't have it awesome.
Yeah.
But many think they have it horrible. And especially with the way mainstream media and content creators on social media are talking, everyone's looking at the downside without looking at the upside.
Imposter syndrome. It's somebody with
AKA the new funny word that we've made it. Imposter syndrome, I'm sorry to interrupt. Imposter syndrome, you mean what we used to call insecurity?
Yeah.
The packaging of insecurity as imposter syndrome has me laughing my ass off, and I'm glad I got to finally address it. I've said it maybe one other place, like, yes, what about insecurity?
I was gonna say in your very like early stages like YouTube, and you're taking your your
not in this game,
work ethic
no.
And putting it out there in
not that. Hitting on girls in high school, yes. I know what insecurity looks like, but not in business. Okay. The day I did that first video, you ready for this? The day I did that first video, in my head, driving home, I said to myself, I'm gonna fucking win this. I'm gonna be known. I'm gonna be the most important in wine business. Literally first one. Because I knew I was gonna grind it. I don't know if I'm gonna buy the New York Jets. You know why? I'm not fully in control. But I know I'm gonna give it a real fucking run.
Right.
You know, if the Johnsons put it up for sale tomorrow, I'm out. I just don't have enough money yet. But if they hold on to it in the range that I think they'll hold on to it, 18, 20, 16, 24 years, I'm in the mix. I believe that to be true.
So you're saying your foundation, your cloth, was built as this world of social media, comments, seeing negativity was there, but like as this stuff transpired and transcended into what is to what?
In high school, no one's opinion or peer pressure even remotely came to penetrate the way I walked around. I think that's the toughest environment.
Yeah.
I didn't know it. This is fun to say as a 48-year-old man. In my late 20s, mid 30s, when I started being like, whoa, I was a weird kid in high school. I was friends with everyone. That was based on me not caring that my cool friends were making fun of me for hanging out with my not cool friends. I didn't care. I wasn't willing to compromise on kindness. In the 90s, in New Jersey, in high school, there was no way to get to the upper echelon of popularity without being a dick face. You had to make fun of people. It just was the currency.
Right.
I wasn't willing to go there. And
Where'd you learn that? Like, how'd you have that?
My mom.
Because it's like everybody deals with it. I can even think of myself being like, damn, you see somebody talk shit about how you played in the game. I'm thinking I'm in my 20s at this point. But in high school, that stuff, I'm just trying to imagine somebody that's just uncompromised. I don't even know it.
I'm detached from results, even though I want them. Meaning, when someone says stuff, first of all, there's a lot to it. Let's break it down. Because we're bouncing. People shitting on you in social media should not be met with you being upset for you. It should be met with you being compassionate to them. Do you know how fucking sad a life is that you walk around the internet and make fun of people or try to hurt people because you're in such a bad place? Saying that you guys suck at this podcast is a little endorphin hit for that person for a nanosecond to feel better about how bad they feel about themselves. All they're doing is tearing you down. They're just misery loves company you. I swear to God, every single negative post that I see about me or in the comments, my brain fundamentally only says, man, I hope that person's gonna be okay one day. Not one thing about me. That has nothing to do with me. But there's a key to that. I also don't take in when people give me the flowers. I'm appreciative as fuck.
Live for the cheers, die by the booze type of thing.
Bro, that shit, if we could get the kids, fucking forget the kids, everyone who's watching this, every grown-up to understand, if you become susceptible to the fucking cheering, you're dead, because the booing will kill you. I'm grateful for when people leave goat emojis. I'm fucking, I wish you could see what I felt like with your opening line on the show. It's like, thank you, it's so nice, but I don't think I'm special because you said it. Which means I don't think I'm a piece of shit when you say the return. Mm-hmm. I know who I am, the end. And unless you really, 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 really know me, how the fuck can I even count it? Mm-hmm. Do you know how many famous people that are universally adored are straight pieces of shit?
Probably a lot.
Yeah, you always hear the stories, you never want to meet your heroes.
Right.
It's real talk. It sucks. I mean, currently right this second, universally adored. They're the best. No, they're not. They sure aren't. They do not treat their people well. Everybody that's close to them does not love them. I can go to sleep every night and put my head on a pillow because the more you know me, the more you like me, those are the results I see.
Work-life balance is almost non-existent, but just if you're trying in all phases, you're phenomenal.
I think so. What's work-life balance? Everyone has their own rules. Mm-hmm. Like I have friends that think work-life balance is 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Okay. Like I have other friends that think it's 9 to 7, Monday through Friday. Okay. I have other friends that think it's 9 to 9, Monday through Saturday. Okay. Like as long as the people in your circle are cool with it, like there's all sorts of, there's a cost to everything. There's just real life circumstances. Like the big thing that I focus on is when I talk about shit, I'm not trying to tell everyone that I'm right about what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm trying to share observations with the hope that it helps someone. That's a very different framework. I don't think the thing I talk about is applicable to everyone. That's insane. I just think that I love observing and have been doing it for a long time. I don't even talk from my framework. Most of the stuff that comes out of my mouth is not just me, it's what I've lived in combination to what I've observed for the last 30 years, because that's what I do for a living. I pay attention for a living. That's why I have an advertising firm. Like, I'm interested in the collective, but that will never be the reflection of an individual. Gen Z, when people are like, Gen Z suck. I'm like, are you a fucking idiot? Do you know how many Gen Z kids I know right now are grinding their asses off and have incredible work ethic? And do you know how many lazy boomers I know? To just blanket paint these observations is wild. Are there rationales to why there's general statements? Sure. Are those things sometimes like pretty close to on the nose? Sure. Like, I get it. But like, nothing is directly one by one. That goes to one-on-one, you with you. Only you know. And you have to make yourself happy, because you can't make anyone else happy unless you're happy. That's real.
If you have no idea what business to start, like a lot of the resources online are about scaling.
Yes.
But like I've done volunteer work for the past 2 years, psychology, business background, and I don't know what business to start at this point in my life. So how do we go about finding out what we want to do?
You know, my big thing is at this young of an age, I think people should taste shit. I think of starting a business the way I think about finding out what your favorite food is. I think you should just go do things that intuitively feel potentially right. You know, you don't know exactly, but you know there's things you're interested in, and I would lean into those interests.
Okay.
You know, whether that's skateboarding or cooking or like education online or sneaker flip, like you have interests, and leaning into those I think work.
Right, so my interests are basically just, I like creative things and helping people.
Good.
So it's very broad.
You're gonna have to go narrow. You're gonna have to go more narrow. Like, you know, those are feelings you have, but you have interest underneath that. You know, painting is creative. Being an entrepreneur and coming up with business ideas is creative. Like, there's a lot of different versions. You're gonna have to go, to your point, lower.
Yeah.
You know, like I also like helping people and being creative, but I manifested that into a wine business, into a client service business, into content. You're gonna have to go lower.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome.
All
Can
right.
I come
Yeah,
up
yeah,
to-
come.
Snap. Hey Gary, Michael Lotta.
How are you?
Queensland Runcorn.
How are
Shout
you?
out to my Runcorn people. Anyways,
There's
Gary,
none
my question-
here? That was devastating.
Sorry, love you, Gary.
Here.
Question. What are your top
listening.
5 tips for students fresh after graduating high school?
Top 5 advice for what, brother?
For graduating high school.
Top 5 tips for graduating high school?
No, sorry, fresh after graduating high school.
Got it. Well, I mean, I think number 1, 2 through 5 has to be self-awareness. So instead of giving you something generic, which is what the mercy is for me when I'm putting out content, let's go different. What are you actually asking me?
Well, not on script, but
Yeah, fuck your script. Like, yeah, there we go. What are you trying to
what
figure
I'm
out?
asking is, what self-drive should I have when I'm graduating high school? Or where should I do? What should I go? What if I have no plans for after what I do?
Well, what do you want?
Something out the box.
What the fuck? Like, play with me here. Like, those are you're regurgitating thesis. Like, play with me here a little bit. Like, what do you like?
The bloke from the start, buying and selling on Amazon. I wouldn't mind getting into that.
That's good.
Yep.
Do that.
Okay, sweet.
You know, you know what I mean, though, bro. Like, what I'm outrageously passionate about is you're part of a generation. Like yesterday, some kid in Sydney's like, bro, how do I get out of the rat race? He's 16. I'm like, bro, you're not in the rat race. You know, like something outside of the box, that's theory, right? That's like jargon. Like to me, it's like, go basic. Like if you enjoy, look, you're talking to somebody, this last week I was in Chicago with my son and my best friend and some of the guys on my team, and we were at this baseball card convention. It was the first time I did being a baseball card dealer in 25 years. I went to another dealer and bought a Wayne Gretzky rookie card for $200. I brought it to my table and priced it at $260, and it sold. The high that I got on that $60 flip is 5 trillion times much bigger of a high than the 6 figures I'll make to give this speech over this last hour. They're not even in the same fucking universe. I love that, right? That's what you need to figure out. Like, if you're lucky enough to actually like buying stuff and flipping it on Amazon, that is a business that can get you to millions of dollars because it's so real. Go into that instead of posturing with something outside the box. Go in the fucking box and execute.
How do I stay in love with the process?
Either you adjust what you do day to day or you sell the company.
That's the end goal, to sell it.
That's already the problem.
Why?
Because that's why people don't like their businesses. They build them to flip.
Okay.
I have no interest in ever selling any of my businesses. Now, it doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, it's why you're struggling. You don't love it, you want the money.
Exactly.
Bad.
Yeah. I'm honest about it, it's true.
I know. You could have lied and I still would have known you were lying.
Yeah.
Because of the way you asked the question.
Yeah.
I would argue that you're playing a game of holding your breath. So do what everybody does when they do a business they don't love. Hold your breath as long as you can and then fucking sell it. Or bring in a minority partner who fucking loves it and let them operate and let them earn from 10% to 50% over 3 years, and then have an infrastructure where you're aligned, but then always be prepared for her or him to say fuck you after 6 years, because now they're the only ones doing it and they don't want to give you 50 cents on the dollar anymore. But for you, at least you extracted value over those 6 years and you're happy to sell it back to her or him at the end of that 6 years. Both of those are options. You get to pick.
Okay, thanks.
But this is why, and that's great, but this is why I want to talk about this for a second. This is why I'm so passionate about people building a business around what they love. Because then you can play forever. It may be a little slow when your business is around footy or the Smurfs or root beer, because it takes time. But over time, you could go like this versus like this. And you're dealing with this. And that's okay. But you have to sell, you have to give up leverage now. You got it?
I got it.
Or are you gonna burn out?
Yeah.
You got it?
The real estate industry and mortgage broking, interest rates and stuff, it's not really that sexy.
No.
Right? So we've tried to make it sexy by combining it with my other passion, which is drinking fine rums.
I'm very excited about what you're saying. I'm being dead serious. People buy homes or give business to people they associate with. I think a lot of you should be talking more about what your favorite footy team is, what kind of beverages you like, what kind of shows you watch on Stan and Netflix. People stay so narrow and professional when all the opportunity is going broader of your actual true self. If you're actually deeply passionate on single barrel and esoteric rums, that is a gateway drug for you to do mortgage and real estate business. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, cool. So that answers so we've called our channel Rum and Real Estate.
I fucking love it, bro. You know what's so amazing about this interaction? You're new, but your intuition is so on.
It's from you.
No, it's not from me, it's from you.
Because I was wondering, because we just don't have enough data to measure whether we're heading in the right direction.
You have no data because you just fucking started.
Exactly. So
fuck data. Why don't you make fucking 2 years worth of content and then think about it? Perfect. Here's the good news. If it's wrong, at least you drank a fuckload of good rum.